Hey Craig, are you ready for me to read the rules of the road? I don't see Chuck yet.
Um, let's just give it one more moment, especially since I see the number of participants continuing to increase.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I see Chuck. Yeah, there he is. You can unmute Chuck.
Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're a little quiet if you lean back, but if you lean forward, you're great.
Okay. Okay. Good. Are we ready to go?
Yeah, if you guys are ready, we can get started.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the July meeting of for the Transportation Committee of Community Board 8. I'm Chuck Warren, the co-chair, and Craig Lader is my other co-chair. And Will, did you explain yet the rules?
I have not. So yeah, if you're new here, or maybe it's the first time you've joined us in a long time, we'll give you a quick little tutorial for how the virtual committee meetings work. So you'll notice that everybody right now is muted except for our co-chairs, Chuck and Craig. And as we move through the agenda, we'll unmute any of the presenters as they cover their topics. Following each agenda item, the co-chairs will call on members who wish to speak. If you would like to participate, you can participate by going to the React icon on your device and pressing the raise hand button there. It's not the wave or the thumbs up, those will disappear. Only press the raise hand button once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're calling in from the phone, it's star and then the number 9 to raise your hand, and then star and then the number 6 to unmute. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once you hear your name called by one of the co-chairs. If you're having problems, the chat is available for technical support only. It is not to ask questions of the co-chairs or presenters. They will never see those chats. And finally, if you're using an older version of Zoom, you may need to go to the participant section where you'd find the raise hand feature there. And we encourage you not to raise your actual hand or wave at us to try to get our attention. If you're having any problems, you can chat me for support. But otherwise, I'll hand it back over to Chuck and Craig and they can get the meeting going.
Thank you. Thank you, Will. Okay, the first item on our agenda is a public hearing on an open street DOT application for the Birch Wathen Lennox School, which is located on East 77th Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenues. We heard this once before, and there was a big issue, and we actually voted against it based on the neighborhood issues, and DOT held things up, and now the school has come back with a different application. And is there anyone here who wants to from the school to discuss the new application?
Yes, that would be me, Bill Kuhn.
Bill Kuhn, okay. Mr. Kuhn, why don't
Yes.
you why don't
Can
you go
I-
ahead and tell us about the different application?
Sure. Could I share my screen?
You can, yeah,
Yes.
Go ahead.
Great. Thank you. Um, one second. 1 second.
Mhm.
Sorry, give me a moment here.
All right.
Apologies. If you hear the little kids in the background, that's also my little ones running around, so apologies. Okay, here we go. Right. Oops. All right, 1 second. Where is... Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we see your screen.
All right. all right, so everyone can see the presentation in full screen mode. Great. Okay.
Yep. Go ahead.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. All right. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. We're grateful for the chance to present to you our revised proposal from the Birchwood Lennox School. We know that there's been a lot of conversation around around our initial proposal. And I just want to acknowledge up front that our initial approach wasn't what it should have been. And we apologize for that. And we've taken that to heart. And we are presenting tonight what reflects, we think, is a real shift, both in the scale and the mindset of our approach. So we're here to engage in a good faith way and find a way to work together for the betterment of all of us, for our community. So this all starts with the needs of our students. So, it's no secret or mystery that kids need to move, they need fresh air, they need to understand moments and need to reset and refocus. That's true of any era, but especially true now after years of disrupted schooling and too much time on screens. This isn't just a nice to have thing, it's an educational and developmental priority. Obviously, backed by research and supported by the city's Open Streets initiatives. There's some context here that I think is important to share. We're a school that operates with limited space. We have a small rooftop, about 1,400 square feet, and one small gymnasium, and that's it for 13 grades. There's no playground, there's no field, there's no yard. Compared to peer schools, public and private and public, our footprint for movement and outdoor activity is relatively small. So this proposal helps us alleviate that and helps us level the playing field, quite literally. So our original proposal was 5 days a week, 4 hours a day, which was way too much. We recognize that. Our new version is scaled back dramatically by reducing the number of hours and days significantly to 3 days a week to 2 hours a day. So that's it. The street would be closed to through traffic, but pedestrians, deliveries, emergency vehicles, access to ride, all of that will remain fully accessible. And it's not going to be recess chaos. It's going to be supervised, structured, and supported by our staff at BWL. So some more context, this isn't some unusual or unprecedented request. There's dozens of schools across the city, many in denser, more complex neighborhoods than ours, participate in open streets programs. The Department of Transportation has outlined a framework for this, and our proposal fits squarely within it. We're not asking for special treatment. We're just asking for the same opportunity as other schools already have. One of the challenges, major changes this time around, challenges last time, is how we approach the outreach. Last time we didn't do enough at all. That is, clear as day, and I'll own that. This time we made a concerted effort. We visited every business, we dropped off flyers, we spoke to building staff, we followed up where we could, and we posted notices throughout the block. Is everyone aware of everything? Probably not, but we're doing the work and we're committed to ongoing and direct engagement. Here are some of the businesses we've spoken to directly. This isn't an exhaustive list, and not every conversation was easy, but we made the effort, and we're continuing to reach out. And our goal is not just to notify, but to collaborate and to hear concerns and work through them together. We genuinely want to support the small businesses on our block. We've made sure that deliveries can happen without notice. We're offering visibility through newsletters and school events, and we're exploring ways to bring more families to the street, things like student art displays, sidewalk programming, and if there's more we can do, we're certainly open to those ideas. We want to support our neighborhood businesses, which we do already. Safety is central to this, absolutely. We have staff at both ends of the street during the closure window, trained to clear students quickly for any emergency vehicle, car, or accessoride that may come through. That's already standard practice in open street schools. Parked cars will stay. We're not asking them to move. Deliveries are fine. What's restricted is through traffic for 2 hours. And that is all. We've designed this in a way to create flexibility and safety. So the upside for us is real. It's for our students. It means movement, clarity, better focus. For the neighborhood, it's more of a family presence. There are calmer transitions between days, between classes, and a creative use of shared space. If done right, we believe this is a model for how we all can work together as institutions, in how institutions and communities can work together to share space thoughtfully. So we've made significant changes as we've said, based on what we've heard, and that spirit continues. We're not presenting this as a done deal. We're presenting this as a revised proposal shaped by feedback with a clear commitment to ongoing dialogue. If this needs further adjustment, we are here to listen.
Well,
and so those are the contact details below for our Open Streets program. Our phone number, email address, and website link. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to present, your time and attention. We know this block is home to residents, to businesses, medical professionals, and it's home to our students too. We want to be good neighbors, and we want to do this right together. So thank you very much for listening to our proposal and considering it.
Mr. Kuhn, question though, that you didn't talk about the area that's going to be involved for the students. Where, how much area, where is it?
So the area is going to be between 3rd Avenue on 77th, between 2nd and 3rd.
I know it's between 2nd and 3rd, but is there a specific area that is going to be where the kids are going to play?
Kids are playing. We have very small grades, and we anticipate not using the whole block. Precisely where on the block is yet to be determined, but it is, I would venture to say that it is roughly about half the block.
Okay. And I didn't see on your list of businesses visited, although you said it wasn't complete, any of the medical offices. Have you talked to any of the medical offices?
Our team went by the medical offices. I have to check with our team to see if what the connection was there. We certainly dropped off flyers, and we will continue to reach out to neighborhood businesses, including those medical offices.
Okay, I guess we'll find out in the public session whether or not who's been talked to or not. Okay, now, as is our tradition, we'll go to the members of the public first, and hopefully people can keep their comments succinct. We have a number of people here, I'm sure, who may want to be heard on this.
Yeah, I'll remind everybody that if you'd like to participate, you can go to the React icon on your device and press the raise hand button. You may need to find it under the more option if you're on like a tablet or a cell phone. So we have a few hands up now.
Yes, I see. And you'll correct me if I miss anyone. Will.
Yeah.
I see Todd Lane Offsync first, Mr. Offsync.
And be on the lookout for a prompt to confirm unmuting once
can
we
unmute
call
yourself.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, good. We hear you now.
Great. So I'm just going to start out by saying this presentation started by saying submitted in partnership with our community. I'm a business owner with 2 storefronts, not 1, but 2 on the block. I own an eco-friendly laundry and dry cleaning business. Nobody has gotten in touch with me. Many of you probably don't know this, but 50% of laundry and dry cleaning businesses have gone out of business since the pandemic. I employ 8 people, all of whom rely upon me, essentially their job to feed their families. Our survival depends on being able to do pickups and deliveries throughout the entire day on the block. We cannot be cut off for 25% of our day, as that would mean a major change to the revenues that we're bringing in. On-demand pickups and deliveries, probably many of you know, you order food, food's coming from DoorDash, from Uber Eats. We use the same type of platform for that. These drivers that, let's say, work for Uber are not aware if the street is closed. We have no way of communicating to them like, hey, you're going to be able to get down the block. We have at least in this 2-hour time frame between 15 and 20 pickups or deliveries that would need to get down the block. This would be really just almost inconceivable that you're going to be clearing the kids off the street, and we're just one business, 15 or 20 separate times. We also use a separate courier service, another 5 or 10 times, just to get down the block. I've seen the other applications with schools. I think they fit into a better profile for a block that, that can be closed. We have many businesses. We have many doctors' offices. We're a thoroughfare for ambulances to pass by. The school has stated that it will only take them, I think, a few seconds to clear the street. We all know that if an ambulance needs to get down the block, it's going to be more than a few seconds. And, in reality, potentially a life or death situation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Upsing. Next is Linda Cornelius. Can we unmute Ms. Cornelius?
Linda, you should have a prompt on your device asking you to confirm unmuting.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the opportunity here. I'm the president of the East 77th Street Block Association and the vice president of the co-op at 205 East 77th Street, directly across the street from Birchwathen. And as has been pointed out, last year, the community board voted against Birchwathen's open streets permit for a lot of good reasons. And frankly, those reasons have not changed. As Todd pointed out, we're still an ambulance block where seconds matter. We have many small businesses as well as medical practices whose patients are mobility and vision impaired. We're not a block made up of townhouses. We are a high-density block composed mostly of smaller units with a lot of moving activity occurring on the block. We have a large elderly population that requires door-to-door service. And let's not forget about a closure, meaning traffic would have to be rerouted to a street with a large public school and a fire station. These reasons alone should disqualify our block from open streets consideration. But on top of that, the community is adamantly opposed to any closure of our block. I haven't heard anything here tonight that should result in a different decision from Community Board 8.
Thank you, Ms. Cornelius. Next, Dr. Ron Goldstein. Can Dr. Goldstein? Yep, you're unmuted.
I'm here.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Dr. Ron Goldstein. I'm an eye doctor here on 77th Street. I'm also very unimpressed with this. I want everything for kids, but yet at the same time, open streets is a privilege, not a right. This school has been open for a very, very long time, turning out some very, very fine students without commandeering the block. Taking this block for 6 hours a week is very considerable. It hamstrings my business for 6 hours a week. We have construction at either end of this block, and that construction will still be going on. This raises the danger of elderly people and elderly patients getting to my office. I have seen the application given to the Department of Transportation, and there is absolutely nothing in it about how people will be let in and out of the block, how car services that would come to pick up elderly patients whose eyes are dilated. There's nothing in their application about that at all. In fact, their application looks like it was put together in 2 minutes. Their community outreach has been superficial at best. They're on this block. They are supposed to be our neighbors. And I have to tell you, they have not been good neighbors. I want to remind this community board that they came to the community board on November 6th, 2024, and they gave testimony to how this would work. And they lied to this community board, and they lied to this community. They were asked how many students Birch Wathen had. They said 500. They have less than 325. They said there were no ambulances on the block. They said there were no doctors' offices on the block. This is not me talking. You can go back to November 6, 2024 and watch the meeting yourself. Getting something like open streets requires community involvement. It involves cooperation and involves becoming a good neighbor. And Birch Wathen Lennox has been anything but a good neighbor. Their outreach has been poor. They haven't interacted with us, and they haven't heard our side or worked with us in any way. I would implore this community board to not approve this. I would implore this community board to remember that they stood in front of you and they tried to mislead you. Okay, I want things for children as well, but they have a rooftop and they do not need this block, and they have no business interfering with our businesses or the safety of the people that live on this block. Please find favor. Thank
Okay,
you very much.
sorry, are you finished, Dr. Colts?
I am.
Good, thank you. Next is Kirby Kersels. Mr. Kersels, go ahead.
Hi, thank you very much. I live next to Birch Wathen at 212 East 77th Street, and I'd like to talk tonight about how much I support this open streets. It sounds like I remember the whole hullabaloo that we went through last time. People raised a lot of points, and the school has substantially, in my opinion, addressed them. I think that it's really important that students are allowed time outside. I also think that our street is largely a residential street, and I'm tired of having oversized trucks come through and get blocked in by double parked cars. And I think this would help to alleviate that. And I really hope that the community board, that the transportation committee approves this application. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Kersels. Next is Drew Nicer. Can we unmute Mr. Nicer?
Okay, hi, my name is Drew Nicer. I reside at 205 East 77th Street, which is directly across the street from Birch Wathen. And I'm in a ground floor apartment that faces the street. As someone who works from home, conducts Zoom calls all day, and records a podcast, I've had to deal with the noise from street repairs. And by the way, there's some going on across the street right now, ambulances passing by, and the construction at both ends of the block. Now, just as the construction is coming to an end, there's the prospect of the school's entire lower and middle school released on the streets 6 hours every work week. I know what this sounds like since Birch Wathen has had street fairs in the spring. It's noisy. You cannot work when they're having their street fair because there's so much screaming. So in addition to all the other reasons that people have outlined which make a block closure disruptive to residents and business, I'd like to represent a view from those of us who have to work from home. Our street isn't a playground and wasn't meant to be.
Thank you, Mr. Nicer. Next is Maggie Lehman. Okay, you're unmuted.
This is Maggie Lehman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for the time. I'd like to speak out in support of this very, very good presentation that Mr. Kuhn made. At the very outset, he acknowledged the prior presentation made last fall, which did not reflect the kind of preparation that went into this one. And Mr. Kuhn, in addition, indicated to this committee, from what I heard, that this was an opening. He invited suggestions. He invited remarks that might speak to how the school and the community and the street, the businesses and residents could work together. This particular school, which someone pointed out, the other person in support, this is a school that's been an integral and historical part of that community and that street. And I'd like to request any further public comments to lower the snark level. I take offense that the school has been accused of lying. I really think that serves no purpose. I think we focus on Mr. Kuhn's request to try to bring some outdoor relief for minimal period of time for the small, younger students in the school. And as he pointed out, the grades are very small. So I'd appreciate some flexibility and some perhaps ability to work with the school to make this happen. And I'd also appreciate, as I said, the lowering of the meanness and the snarkness of the comments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Steve. I don't see any other public comments, and we can go to the board now. Are there members of the board that want to comment or do anything at this point?
Michelle?
Yeah. Oh, Michelle.
Thank
yes.
you.
Go ahead, Michelle.
I really appreciate Mr. Kuhn coming back and, changing some of his plans and trying to be more accommodating. And I also understand the argument that, of course, children need to play outside. Other schools are doing it, et cetera, et cetera. But you know what? The only thing is this: all streets are not equal. And East 77th Street, in addition to the businesses, the doctor's offices on the street, is really a through street for ambulances to Lenox Hill. And remember the construction that is going to be happening at Lenox Hill, and things are going to be more and more difficult going forward, maybe for the next 9 to 11 years, as they had proposed. So I don't think that a 1,200-foot roof playground is insignificant. I think it depends on how you plan your time. My assumption is that the bigger kids do not need this kind of accommodation, that you're basically talking about the lower grades. And we haven't heard anything about your schedule and how you've attempted to accommodate this outdoor need for your younger children. I suspect that you can accommodate for it. And I would like to see you try to do that, to get it within your day, accommodate the smaller children. If you have to plan period by period, maybe you can lower the amount of time that each grade spends there. But 1,200 feet is not insignificant. And so I would like to see the school try to work within those parameters and not endanger the ambulance and traffic through flow and cause inconvenience to those businesses and residents that are on the street. But I thank you for your attempt to revise things. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Michelle. Are there any other board members here who would like to be heard?
Yeah, we have
Yes.
Sebastian.
Sebastian, yes.
Sorry. Hi, thank you, Chuck, and big thank you to Bill from the school for coming and speaking with us tonight. I really appreciate how you have taken the feedback on board that the community shared with the school a few months ago. and really been listening to some of the concerns that were raised. I support this application, and I think that it's a reasonable balance that is taking into consideration the well-being of these students, as well as allowing the consistency of access for those priority needs for deliveries and ambulances, as well as people with reduced mobility needs. So on that basis, I really respect the school for making these adjustments and hope that we can make this compromise a reality.
Thank you, Sebastian. Paul Quickler. Paul, we unmute him.
Thank you. I also support this application. I think that every school in the city, whether it's charter school, private school, public school, any school, should have an open street in front of it where the kids can play, congregate before and after school. So for me, this is a no-brainer. Thank you.
Thank you. And DJ Falkson, our new members. DJ, you want to comment? And unmute. There you go.
Hi, thank you. Thanks to everyone who spoke tonight, listening to the concerns. Thanks to Birch Wathen for revising their proposal, making an effort to listen to feedback. I think the engagement really matters. I also want to speak in support of the proposal. I think it's thoughtful. They scaled it back in response to prior concerns. And it's ultimately aimed at something pretty simple and worthwhile, which is making streets safer and better for kids during the school day. Don't want to minimize the concerns tonight, but I think it's good to maybe reframe them some. We often talk in the city like cars are the default and anything else is an inconvenience, including kids playing in the street. But this is a school. We know from experience, I live on 82nd Street and the Manhattan New School on 82nd does open streets every morning. We know that they can work very well and they can coexist with deliveries and emergencies and daily life. I think concerns about medical access and drop-offs are real and solvable. And if there are big concerns there, then, we should work with DOT to come up with kind of clear solutions, whether it's curb access or signage or something like that. But those should be challenges and not deal breakers. I think you hear something bigger in the comments, which is a tension between, a city that's changing. There's a community that's used to certain patterns of life, businesses that are used to certain patterns, and I get that. But we can't let it, paralyze us against every potential change that might happen. I know we're going to talk about micro hubs as well, and I'm sure people have thoughts there. If we want a city that works for families and for kids, but also older residents and small businesses, there needs to be some compromise. On the noise, we need to be honest, streets are loud. I'd rather hear kids playing for a few hours a day than trucks idling and horns blaring, which is, often the default. So I'll stop because I've been talking for a while. I think we can kind of work together for a good solution, but I'm in favor. I wanted to make a motion to.
You can't make a motion now.
Oh,
You would have had to make the motion first, DJ, and then
got it. Still learning my
that's
Robert's
okay.
rules.
That's
Thank
okay.
you.
We're gonna get together soon, shortly. Okay. Next is our board chair, who happens to be a member of the committee, and Valerie Mason.
Thanks, Chuck. A couple of questions. And I have spoken extensively with Birch Wathen prior to them coming here to help them outreach to the block. But I haven't heard two major groups that objected to the original application were the public middle school around the corner from this school. And Bill, I just don't know. Have you closed the loop with them on this?
Which school you mean the Robert Wagner School? We have reached out. We have walked over to them. We haven't heard back, but I personally have not spoken with them about their concerns.
Okay, well, I mean, I think I would like to know that you have before we actually vote on this, because they were pretty detailed in their concerns about the traffic shifting around. And then the other major constituency that was objecting to this was the firehouse, which is another city agency. So we didn't have any. I have to say that, when Michelle is saying every block is different, we can't look at them all the same. We have approved a number of street closings in front of schools. So we're not adverse to doing this, but we hadn't, in any of those other street closures or open streets, whichever way you want to look at it, hadn't heard from the firehouses or anything like that before. So that makes this also a little bit unique. And I didn't know if BWL had walked over there or engaged with the firehouse at all.
Yeah, our team did engage with the firehouse, but I will have to get back to you about the precise conversation that they had with them.
Mm-hmm. And then, and excuse me, maybe I got a little distracted. My impression was that with all of these open streets, there still had to be a lane maintained for emergency vehicles. But it sounded like, and Craig, correct me if I'm wrong here, I thought there was a provision in the actual law that said that there had to be something cleared for the emergency vehicles to go down at all times.
I was actually going to say, if Colleen is available and able to unmute, she probably could answer the question better than I can, because I am not 100% sure, so I don't want to misspeak and mischaracterize what the law would be.
Hey, Craig. Hey, everyone. It's Colleen from Department of Transportation. So I think my colleague Kyle Gorman is on this call, is in this meeting as well, and he can best answer that question. If you can unmute him, Will.
Thank you, Colleen. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kyle Gorman. I work on the Public Realm team, helping to manage our open streets program here across New York City. So it is required that there is an emergency lane maintained at all times on the block. The block can be restricted at the entrance with a metal barrier, but there does have to be an emergency lane that's maintained down the center of the block at all times.
Yeah, and thank you, Kyle, for that. And so I guess my question is, if this was approved, does that mean that BWL has to have someone at all times at either end of the block? Because I didn't hear you say that you were going to have that person there, Bill.
They said they were.
That is something that we're requiring of them, to make sure that they have someone who's staffing the barriers at all times from 11 to 1. So of course, first and foremost, if an emergency vehicle needs to access the block, they will be able to do so. Or in the case of the individual who owns the dry cleaner, you can say, hey, I'm making a delivery, I need to get on the block, so on and so forth, for anyone else who, has local business or a local residence on the block.
Yeah, well, thank you. You anticipated my next question, because I don't think it's anyone's intention to try to, by lifting up the kids and giving them a play space, to reduce or put anybody out of business. And so it sounds like that can be worked out. I was just wondering, is there any possibility that we could do this on a seasonal basis? I mean, are there any other streets, Kyle, that maybe, it's just September or August to November, and then it picks up again in March or April through June?
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of organically kind of what happens in a lot of ways. As we all know, from basically December to March, April, it's just too cold to be outside. But as we also know, the weather gets weirder and weirder every single year. So we do want to make sure that the schools have year-round access to open streets during the academic year. I think DOT would be totally fine if you all wanted to pass a resolution stating that it is maybe some sort of contingent approval, like that only is for the first semester from Labor Day until the holidays. And then we can potentially revisit it for the spring if that would make people feel a little bit more comfortable, and we can sort of come back and debrief and take it from there.
Okay, well,
Thank
I
you.
mean,
Thank you, Kyle.
everybody's hearing that, so I think,
Okay.
thank you very much. I just wanted
Thank
to,
you. Thanks,
I would
Valerie.
just say, Chuck, no matter what we put out here tonight, that I still would like the school to come back with some evidence that they have been in contact with the major groups that came the last time, and that actually, beyond our hearing, wrote letters to the DOT to that were in opposition to this. And those were from, again, a public school around the corner and a New York City firehouse. So those weren't private citizens objecting to the open streets, the open street plan for this block. It was actually, you know, other city agencies and instrumentalities.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I understand from Mr. Kuhn that they contacted them, but I guess he doesn't know how they've responded. And they haven't said anything to us or come here, as far as we know.
Mm.
Is that correct, Mr. Kuhn? You have made some contact with the school and the firehouse?
Oh, he needs to unmute. Sorry.
Yeah, unmute, if you can unmute him, yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to mute my microphone so that you don't hear my children in the background. Our communications team have made contact. I have to follow up, and certainly, Valerie, I will update you and the board on our connection and the conversation that we have with them.
Yeah, well, I think DOT has the people that contacted them directly because they were the ones who forwarded me their letters. So they can supply you with the appropriate contact people. And I think it would be appropriate if you submitted the evidence of you reaching out to them in writing.
Will do.
Okay. Next, Sebastian has his hand up. Go ahead.
Thanks, Chuck. I'd like to move that we approve the proposal as presented.
Is there a second? There's a couple of seconds. Okay. Craig, do you want to first just call the roll so that we know that you have everybody? All the
Yeah,
members?
if we could just lower all the hands, please. Okay, so we have myself, Chuck, DJ, John McClement, just taking notes as I write this, Michelle, Paul, Sebastian, TJ, and Valerie. Is there anyone who I missed that is a member of our board?
Looks like Lori is
Lori Boros was here. She's
waving. She's on.
Laura's here.
Oh,
Laura's
she
here.
fell off as.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Looks like somebody else is here as well that's waving with an.
Yeah, you're not on the board.
No.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right. So if you're in favor of this application, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to vote no or abstain or not vote for cause, raise your hand.
Valerie, I think, may have a
Yeah.
point before the vote.
Valerie?
I just wanted, I didn't realize if you called the question, but I wanted to just make a friendly amendment that we follow Kyle's lead and just approve this as a 6-month pilot to see how it works out.
So Sebastian, it's his motion. Do you approve that?
Respectfully, I'd like to just leave this as a permanent approval.
And it's for 1 year though, right? It's for just
Ah.
1 year and would
1
have
year,
to
yes.
be reapplied
Kyle's
for.
shaking his head. It's it's only a 1 year approval, right?
Well, okay. I mean,
Okay.
and then it has to come back for our reapproval. Is that the idea?
Yes, Kyle's shaking his head, yes.
Okay.
Very emphatically. Okay. All right. So as I said, those who are approving don't have to do anything, but if you want to vote no or abstain or vote not voting for cause, raise your hand. Okay, Michelle?
No, and I just want to point out
No,
that
don't.
Yasmina has had her hand up through all
Yeah.
of this conversation and no one called on her. I just wanted to point that out in case you didn't see her.
Who?
Yasmina.
Yeah, she raised her hand after you'd already gone to board members.
No, we had already gone to, yeah, it had already gone to the board, to the folks, Michelle. Okay, so did you want to say?
John has his hand up also.
And John McClemens, yeah.
Yeah, I oppose this.
Oh, no, okay. Okay.
And Valerie.
And Valerie,
I'm going to abstain until we get the other information.
okay, okay, fine. Anything else? Anyone else? Okay,
So that's 7 yes, 2 no, 1 abstention.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Kuhn, and try to get that stuff in as soon as possible, so that you've made contact with the school and the fire department.
Yes, I will do that as soon as possible. Thank you for your time and thank you for everyone for listening to our proposal. Appreciate it, and we intend to work with you to ensure that, like I said in the presentation, it's a win-win.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Item number 2 is we had this before the committee last month, and this has to do with the signal timing of the lights on Third Avenue, and there was a lot of concern raised about changing it to 15 miles an hour with no notice, which was unusual. And DOT is coming back with an update on the signal retiming. And are the DOT folks here? I think I know we know Colleen's here, and I assume others are here too.
Yes, thank you.
So Carl Sundstrom, are you going to take over?
I will, yes.
Okay.
Just a moment.
You're going to step into the hot seat?
Absolutely.
Okay, I like to hear that.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not too hot, right? Let's see. Okay. Let me minimize my screen. We can get going. Okay. I take it that you all can see this. Somebody will speak up if not.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Craig. Good evening, everyone. I'm Carl Sundstrom, Chief of Cycling and Micromobility at New York City DOT. And as mentioned, I'm here to provide a few updates on Third Avenue. So, go over sort of what we've seen overall in the project to date and sort of, the purpose of the project. And then we'll get into sort of the details of the signal timing, some of the initial data that we have available for us, and how we'll continue monitoring and what we're looking at moving on into the future. So, just a quick refresher, the Third Avenue Complete Street project was a 2023 street redesign. And it was really, in a direct response to the safety issues on the corridor. So there was a whole just horrible spate of fatalities and serious injuries along the corridor. 7 fatalities from 2016 to 2020, 40 people were seriously injured. That continued even up until the project was implemented. And so the idea, this is why we came to this section of Third Avenue first. It was in desperate need of a redesign and really brought up to modern standards. Before, if you can remember what it looked like, it was 70 feet wide. It was just striped as 10-foot lanes all the way across. And it sort of really didn't meet the needs of really anybody. The street just didn't function really well. And so we came in with this project to really bring our most advanced design toolkit available to really make it a great street going through the neighborhood. And so we put in an offset dedicated bus lane that works 24/7 for the 50,000 bus riders that go on the street. We reallocated the street, the number of travel lanes for general traffic to accommodate the actual street volumes. And then we looked at adding the protected bike lane and some pedestrian safety treatments along the corridor as well. And so as part of it, we installed at the intersections a lot of pedestrian islands and turn calming. We added the hardened daylighting at the corners. So this is where on the intersection approach, we add vertical elements, whether it's bike racks or other features to keep the intersection clear on approach so that there's great visibility between the drivers, the pedestrians, and the cyclist, and with the goal of reducing crashes. At the same time, we added turn calming treatments. So we really tightened the geometry so drivers have to really slow down to make those turns. And then we added also rubber speed bumps to slow the vehicles even further. And then on the bike lane itself, we sort of have used our latest in sort of our design standards for the corridor. So where we could, we made the bike lane a little bit wider to sort of alleviate the congestion that we're starting to see in our busy bike lanes and to really sort of make it a much more comfortable cycling experience. So the goal, with this design is really to provide space where people can ride side by side, families can ride with their kids, feel safe, and sort of allow for more predictable passing in the bike lane. So in some of our narrower protected bike lanes and our older designs, what you have is a lot of people sort of squeezing by, especially as they get busier and busier in the bike lanes. And so this design really allows for moving the faster cyclists further away from the curb. And so most of the passing typically in bike lanes occurs sort of in the buffer where the parked cars are. And so what this does is it moves those cyclists away and just reduces the potential interactions between pedestrians who may be stepping off the curb and the faster moving cyclists. And so we think this is a really great design. We've been monitoring it, evaluating it, iterating on it, and really, really, really happy with what it delivers. The other thing that we did is with so many delivery cyclists out there and they have their own needs, especially with building access, we installed a lot of bike racks on the corridor and specific even delivery worker corrals for them to leave their bikes off the sidewalk in the bike lane and the roadway, and sort of keep the sidewalk clear and reduce the amount of sidewalk riding. And so I think that's been really successful. I think this street generally is far calmer, overall easier to cross, really effective, and the preliminary data shows that it's again, like it's early to be looking at crash data, just due to the somewhat natural fluctuations of crashes, but in this case, it's been around for a little while and we've seen remarkable results and actually pretty in line with what we'd expect, but 54% reduction in pedestrian injuries and 33% reduction in total injuries. So it's really working. This combination of turn calming treatments, better visibility, reduced exposure for pedestrians and reduced crossing distances, having that bus only lane, all that together has been a real success for the safety of the corridor. And I'll mention actually one other thing that we added on here was sort of we have a new traffic signal that we've recently started using as our standard practice, which is a smaller traffic signal that's installed on the near side. So on the approach to the intersection, that's mounted at eye level for cyclists. And so this is sort of a global best practice, but one that we've just recently started to procure and one that's starting to show up more and more in the US. Well, the idea is, on the far side, we still have a larger traffic signal, sort of the normal motor vehicle traffic signal that's visible from a large distance, but it's mounted up high. But on the near side of the intersection, now we have them mounted at eye level. for cyclists, and so that they can see and it's more visible of the signal controls. And so Third Avenue was actually the first place that we installed those signals as we roll it out citywide. So we're quite pleased with the project, but we certainly had been hearing a lot of feedback surrounding sort of pedestrian cyclist interactions and concerns with cyclist speeds. And so that's when we started thinking about, okay, well, what are tools that we can do to mitigate that and improve safety on the corridor, but also sort of improve the comfort, reduce those negative interactions between cyclists and pedestrians. We went out looking at the speeds of cyclists. It's really the speeds between like conventional cyclists and on a non-e-bike and cyclists on e-bikes really actually doesn't vary that much. The speed profiles are a little bit different, right? They have faster acceleration and that sort of thing. But it's not so much the speed, but what we are seeing, of course, is with the increase of cycling in general and sort of some cultural shifts, we're seeing some signal compliance challenges at intersections, but more so I think it's failure to yield to pedestrians and sort of these near these close passes with pedestrians that are really I think causing a lot of concern out there. And so what we know is, and we have these on a number of different corridors on the city, but we thought, well, Third Avenue is a great opportunity to adjust the signal timing to 15 miles an hour. So, and we'll get to the speed data next, but what we know is like during the day, traffic speeds are even under 15 miles an hour already. So they were already far below the signal progression speed of 25 miles an hour. And but the advantage to adjusting the traffic signal progression to 50 miles an hour, meaning that as you travel along the corridor at 15 miles an hour below, you'll always hit green lights. And there's a number of real advantages there. Principally, and the reason that we really focused on it is it has a great potential to reduce the conflicts between cyclists and pedestrians. And the reason why is if people know about this signal timing, then they'll know if they just have to wait for one red light, they get all green lights for the whole corridor. So there's a real savings there. And if you don't wait for the red light, you keep hitting red light after red light after red light. So there's a real advantage there, right? And it's an incentive. It's sort of the carrot method of sort of encouraging this behavior change by providing this corridor. And even if you don't know about the signal time adjustment, you'll likely accidentally end up on this green wave anyway, just simply because at sort of the major crosstown streets, right, like at 72nd Street, 79th Street, people aren't going through on red anyway. The streets are too busy, too wide, and so they're waiting for the green light. Well, as soon as you wait for that green light, you automatically get on that get on the green wave, and so that also has the advantage of not only then are people not running the red lights, but it even reduces the percentage of cyclists who are hitting red lights and the opportunity to run the red lights, right? Like if you're on the green wave, you're hitting green lights, you're not hitting red lights, and you're not having those negative potential interactions with pedestrians. And so, this is sort of the principal goal here was to really, find a strategy that worked for everyone on the corridor. We knew that the motor vehicle speeds were already below this speed. And this is a way to also sort of slow down the higher end speeds of cyclists in the bike lanes, right? Like you have to travel 50 miles an hour below, or you don't get the advantage of it. Of course, this also only works, or it works best if people know about it. So since the timing went in, we've done a lot of outreach on the corridor. We went out with our street ambassadors and handed palm cards out to cyclists on there. They went out 4 different times with the message that wait for the red, you'll get the green all the way through. You'll avoid the traffic tickets, and we've been working with the police department on collaborating on more education and operations, and so the sort of the message I think also resonates about avoiding the ticket. And of course, like keep yourself and pedestrians and other cyclists safe, right? These are the messages that we were really pushing. We also added signs to the corridor so that people know what the speed the signals are set for. So sort of like reduce that unexpected movement that can be frustrating if you feel like the signal, something is off with the signal timing. So better message that. We also think, I mentioned that it can reduce the higher end speeds of cyclists, but we also think there's an advantage at overnight, right? So there's, overnight, when there isn't a lot of traffic, you can have sort of speeding issues on the corridor. And that's, when there's, of course, a ton of pedestrians still out on and crossing Third Avenue. And so we think, there's a real advantage even overnight when the traffic volumes are low, people could go faster. The signal timing when it's set for 25 means you can actually go well above 25 if you end up on the back end of a wave and to get to the front end. So this can also sort of reduce those speeds, which has a real safety benefit. Drivers, when they're going slower, their field of view, their vision is a lot greater. They have better peripheral vision. They're able to scan the street more. They will turn slower. They'll have more opportunity to stop. But even in the event that a crash occurs, it's far more likely to be a non-severe crash than if it was at a higher speed. So most likely the crashes will be avoided altogether, but if they do happen, they'll be less severe. So that's sort of a principle of Vision Zero and safe system street design. But onto the data and sort of what we've been looking at. And so this chart shows vehicle speeds by year. And so we have 3 different years on the chart. 2023, which was the year before this project was implemented for this period. So that's sort of the baseline with no project. Then 2024 are the speeds when the project was implemented, but without the signal timing adjustments. And then 2025, of course, are with the 15-mile-an-hour signal timing. And so what you can see here is on the left, sort of the y-axis, that's the speed in miles per hour. And then across the bottom, that's the time of day. So starting from midnight to midnight. What you can see here, I think, is, in the middle of the chart, you see that the speeds are really very well aligned from roughly 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So when the street is already congested, travel speeds were already going around 10 miles an hour. We're not really seeing any difference there. And then as you start going in the evening, the speeds start diverging a little bit, and then you can see overnight there's a greater difference there. Of course, from 1 to 4 a.m., the sample size is going to be much lower, just given the lower vehicle volume. So you're going to see maybe some odd fluctuations there. But overall, what we're seeing is, the majority of the day, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., when most of the people are out and about, the speeds really haven't changed much for drivers. So again, this is driver speeds. And then, we also had some questions about, well, how is this affecting First Avenue, right? Are people diverting onto First Avenue? So we could also look at the speeds on First Avenue. So this is the chart, again, with the same 3 years of 2023, 24, and 25. And so again, the speeds are on the left axis there, starting at 0 going up. So higher speeds are higher on the chart. And you can see the speeds are no different this year from last year. And both years are a little bit faster than they were in 23. And so we're really not seeing any, real effects or spillover effects or, added congestion on First Avenue or effects on the speeds based on the Third Avenue signal progression. And so those are the speed data for vehicles. But of course, there's one other important user on the street, which are the 50,000 bus riders who go on Third Avenue every day. And so we did look at the bus speeds as well. Again, I ignore the overnight data. It's a very low frequency, low buses and low sample, given that we were really only looking at May, which we think is the most stable month for the data. But you can see the bus speeds here are really about the same, which makes a lot of sense. That the buses in general are going slower. They're pulling over. So they have to speed up, and they're never really getting up to 25 miles an hour anyway. And so for the buses and the bus riders, we're really not seeing a lot of difference here. And so that's really important because we certainly didn't want to have a negative impact on the many bus riders there. But this is also data that we'll continue to monitor and look at. And there's some other things that, we'll look at as well. And so one thing that we did before this change was in place is we looked at we recorded some video on the corridor for a number of different things. One is, as I mentioned, we were installing sort of wider lanes and markings to better designate the space for cyclists and allow for sort of that more comfortable, lower stress cycling. And so we were kind of seeing how the markings worked. But when we had that video, we were also able to look at signal compliance at a number of different intersections on 3rd Avenue. And so now that we've done, the outreach that I mentioned, we have the signs up. We have these, there's a great photo right there of the eye level bike signal. Those are the 4-inch lenses there, so smaller than a normal, signal that's designed for drivers. But now that we have that, we've recorded video, and we're going to go back and we're also going to look at the signal compliance, and we're going to look at a couple of different things. We're going to look at the compliance itself, and we're also going to look at the arrival of red versus green to see if it made a difference in terms of how cyclists are even arriving at the intersection. So that's really important. And then we'll continue to look at the speed data that I just showed. So we'll continue to monitor the speeds on 3rd Avenue as well as 1st Avenue, and the bus speeds as well. And so we'll continue to keep an eye on it, make sure that it's working as anticipated. And if not, we're certainly willing to make adjustments as needed. So thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come and provide these updates.
Thank you, Carl. We'll take questions now from public. Okay. Let's see first, Andrew Fine. We unmute Andrew.
Andrew, you can go ahead and unmute. And just a reminder to those who might want to speak, you can go to the React icon on your device and look for the raise hand button.
Hey, Chuck. Thank you so much. This is so exasperating. The DOT is now like the Department of DoorDash. Let's face it. They roll out respectfully a guy from DOT who is, I guess, the head of cycling and micromobility. Well, imagine that. Not the guy who's in charge of the other 97% of road and sidewalk users. No, the guy who's in charge of cycling and micromobility. And let's face it, that's the DOT's focus. They've totally lost their way. They represent now about 3% of all the road users. I'm confused. He's talking about families with kids cycling up 3rd Avenue. I stood on 3rd Avenue the other day and counted. There aren't even bicycles on 3rd Avenue anymore. It's an e-bike expressway. It's 96% e-bikes. They're all delivery guys. It's all in the name of the apps, and the DOT is acting solely in the name of the apps, and they're not considering like bus speeds. Bus speeds under this regime are down or flat, and but to hell with the bus riders. They need the e-bike riders to get a constant speed and the green wave and everything else. Listen, the bottom line is the speed limit is 25 miles per hour. The DOT has taken it upon themselves to make their own speed limit. It's 15 miles an hour because you can't go more than like 13 or 14 if you're in a vehicle now. That includes cabs, that includes buses, that includes ambulettes, everything else. Everybody aside from the e-bike user is deprioritized. I think it's shameful. We're not considering pedestrians because at the end of the day, the biggest problem that we have on 3rd Avenue is people getting hit by e-bikes, not cyclists, because there are no cyclists anymore. They're getting hit by e-bikes. And regardless of how you jerry-rig the lights, they don't give a crap about the lights. They don't care about the direction. They don't care about the bike lane. They're not in the bike lane 3/4 of the time. So I'm just like really frustrated. And now CB8 has taken a turn towards the far left and the special interest, and now we're outnumbered, so we won't be heard. But the reality is that the DOT is now focused on the 3% of road users that are e-bikes. They're not even bicyclists. That's baloney. There are no cyclists left. The age of cycling in New York City is dead. It's all about high-speed e-vehicles working for DoorDash and Uber Eats, and I'm ashamed that we're even giving the head of cycling and micromobility kind of free reign on Third Avenue. Thank you for your time. Oh, by the way, zero public input. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks,
All
Chuck.
right. Next, Yasmina, would you say your full name for the record, please?
It's Yasmina Palumbo Kaleo, and I'm a parent of 2 kids, and I can absolutely back up what Andrew Fine has said. I live in a co-op on 66th Street, and we have a basement full of bicycles that we can't give away because people do not feel safe riding regular bicycles anymore. I will not let my kids ride in the bike lanes. As lovely as the idea is, I will absolutely not let them ride in the bike lanes with speeding e-bikes. I'm curious about what the cultural shift is that the DO representative is referring to. I'm wondering if it's the same cultural shift that I have witnessed, which is that traffic laws are optional. They're suggestions. And that is a real cultural shift where people feel completely unapologetic to ride on the sidewalks, on e-bikes and bicycles, and endanger pedestrians, endanger children, the elderly. It's appalling to me that this is how our society is existing, where it's just fine to constantly put pedestrians in danger. It needs to change. It certainly won't change with city bikes now stationed on our sidewalks, which is a clear signal to people right up on the sidewalk and park your bike. I mean, it's just insanity. And my last point is I ride the M15 bus downtown every day and back up every day. And I can tell you that personally, my First Avenue commute has increased by 15 to 20 minutes in the last 2 months. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the signals on Third Avenue. I really don't know how much more congestion and bottleneck that our particular neighborhood can withstand. Thank you.
Thank you. Carl, I don't know if you want to reply to any of that. It's up to you.
I mean, I guess the question about the cultural shift, I think more so it's, in terms of like the app-based delivery workers, we, absolutely want to provide a safe workspace for them as well. No question. And, I think, part of it is sort of the way that they are also incentivized in terms of like, creating deliveries, the speed at which they need to do their deliveries and their pickups. And I think, there are possible, solutions that are more regulatory there. That's out of the, our purview, but I think that will help. And that's sort of, that's essentially what I was referencing is that when you incentivize people to, for their job, to have to do it as fast as possible or to lose out on their wages, then it does create a bit of a shift in the way that people, use the facilities. And so I think, to the extent that we can sort of provide, designs that reinforce safe behaviors and increase, better sightlines, yes, slow speeds, even chances to arrive on green traffic signals. Those are all, the goals that, that I think we all support. So, and, Third Avenue, certainly from a pedestrian safety standpoint, has really has been successful. Obviously, we're still working to minimize these interactions.
Yep.
That's the goal.
Okay, thank you. Next, Dylan Yen. Unmute that, Dylan. Okay, you're on.
Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Sounds good. So I've beaten this dead horse, but your data show. Thank you for giving us the data, Carl. Your data shows that your speeds overnight in the average of 20 miles an hour. The average speeds in 2024 before the change on the avenue were 25% faster. Maybe something to suggest is after 7 p.m. when the data shows that traffics do move faster, shift it to 20 miles an hour as at least 20 as an average. It was 25. 15 is a little too slow. We'd probably be pretty happy at 20. And your own data shows that the 2024 average speeds are 25% faster in the evenings when we want to encourage people to do deliveries, especially with congestion pricing, maybe something to consider. And I also want to make a final observation, which was the majority of the presentation is about prioritizing cyclists and only cyclists. New traffic signals for cyclists, giving cyclists carrots so they can follow the green wave, except everybody with eyes in the neighborhood while we watch cyclists continually run red lights. And so what it makes us feel like is everybody who's not young and fit and can't ride a bicycle isn't important. And, conveniently slowing down a major thoroughfare that leads to 33% less throughput and manufacturing congestion for everybody else in a vehicle, makes us feel like the 97% of us who don't ride a bicycle all the time don't matter. Thank you, Carl.
Next, there's another Andrew, I think. And again, you identify your full name for the record.
My name is Andrew Charles.
Okay.
Sorry, my 5-year-old is yelling back at me. This is my first time joining one of these. I've always been really happy with CB8, and I feel like CB8's been pretty good about listening to us. But I watched the Zoom of the Land Transportation Committee, and I feel like we've lost touch here. Carl, I don't think you've been on 3rd Avenue. And then we had one of the co-chairs last week or 2 weeks ago say 3rd Avenue is safer than it was before. I believe that was Craig. And that's not true. We have e-bikes flying through intersections incessantly. They are not only leaving the bike lanes, they're going in the bus lanes, they're going the wrong way. Traffic now is spread out 3 blocks. So you have traffic that is 3 blocks and it's leaving a void because traffic is no longer flowing. So now the e-bikes feel more emboldened than ever to run the red lights. I cross that street all the time to go to the subway, buzzed all the time. This has not made pedestrians safer. I feel like DOT is not working for all New Yorkers. As a pedestrian, I feel unsafe. I trust the cars to stop more. In addition to that, cars now going up 3rd Avenue, it has turned into stop signs where they are hitting the accelerator, stopping, and the rear ending of each other is getting closer and closer. So now it's not a natural flow like 1st Avenue and 2nd Avenue. 25% reduction in speed, but now we're facing e-bikes. In addition, I'm going to call something out, and I don't know if anyone did this. Transportation Alternatives is a lobbyist group. They are funded by Uber and Lyft, and also Bloomberg. This is $1 billion corporations putting money into the street, right? Amazon now is going to be getting space on 3rd Avenue. We have a community board member too that is openly stated, and this has gone around the community, that Ben Furness, I'm looking forward to working with you, essentially supporting initiatives.
We need to stop this because we're not allowed to call out members for their affiliations.
But then we're getting shut down, my friend.
No. There's a decorum rule here in place where we don't make any comments about members or anyone in general that is considered adversarial. So I think we need to end this. So thank you for your comments.
Okay. Next is Evelyn David. Evelyn.
Hi, good evening. The gentleman that was speaking from transportation, you've turned 3rd Avenue into 2nd Avenue going to the bridge. It is at certain times of the day, you can walk across the street because the cars are bumper to bumper and the traffic is unbelievable. So it is really, it's really unfortunate. Used to be 3rd Avenue. I mean, maybe the 25 mile, if you got on 3rd Avenue, you went Below 25, you're right, you could hit every single green light. It was flowing beautifully. Now it's 15 miles an hour, and you're right, if you go 14 miles an hour and you hit every green light, it flows. Unfortunately, it is so slow that it is very hard to kind of like get the other cars to go that slow. I totally vehemently and actually am hoping that you've listened to all the arguments. And by the way, with the bikes, forget it. You're never going to stop them, okay? They blow through the lights. The things that we do as pedestrians is make sure that we don't get killed. And the most people, we look before crossing the street. You have to protect yourself next to something so that in case somebody comes up at you, one of the bikes, they hit that thing and not you. And so, I'm very aware of that because I have to go on there all the time. So having said that, I'm just paying attention, like, animals in the forest, basically, okay, because they're paying no attention to us. Having said that, if you went up to 20 miles an hour, the speed, the flow of traffic would increase better. People would go 19 miles an hour, the cars would. I'm not talking about the e-bikes. E-bikes zoom past us. They zoom past all the cars. So I'm not sure where you're looking and what time of day you're looking, but this is normal us travel time in the mornings early and in the afternoons around 3. I suggest that you get more people on the outposts to be taking pictures and making sure, looking at the traffic patterns, because you really have turned it into a Second Avenue thing, mess going to the bridge. When all the traffic was completely blocked up. It still is a little bit. So, I mean, not just a little bit. Anyway, thank you very much for at least showing up. And we have our comments because we live in this neighborhood all the time. We're here every single day. So we do know, what the situation is. And I'm hoping that you are listening, okay? And go back to the drawing board and go, maybe we should increase it to at least 20. They'll go 19 miles an hour. The bikes, the e-bikes are going 25 miles an hour anyway, because they're going past us like crazy. Anyway, thank you very much. Have a good evening, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Evelyn. Next is Jenny Whitney, and we unmute Jenny.
Hi, I'm Jenny Whitney, and I live on 73rd Street. And I just wanted to voice support for the current signaling timing for the 15 miles an hour. I don't have a car, I don't have a bike, I walk around and I take transit. My husband actually bikes on a manual and he does frequently use 3rd Avenue with no battery. So, and I'm just saying this because I've heard a lot of, views here that are very sort of claiming representation for pedestrians and, the 97% or whatever people who don't bike. And I just don't feel they're necessarily reflective of everyone. I really love any sort of street improvement that encourages people to move slower through the street because it just makes it safer for everyone on there. And I think that's really demonstrated by the statistic that there's been a 54% reduction in pedestrian injuries, and that's really amazing. And I would love to see the streets made safer at night, and it seems like this has been proven to do that. So I really support this and would love to see more of this in the neighborhood, and would just want to, communicate that, there are pedestrians who do support this. They just, may not be on this meeting at this time. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kirby Kersels. Mr. Kersels, mute him, please. There we go.
Thank you so much, Chuck. Now, thank you so much to Carl and the rest of the DOT team for coming tonight and informing us about these really wonderful reduction in injuries. My partner was seriously injured by a truck, and before the 3rd Avenue was redesigned, we dreaded crossing it. I can't count the number of times that we were almost hit by cars speeding up 3rd Avenue and cars turning left off of 3rd Avenue. And it's really just night and day in how much better it is. And we no longer dread crossing 3rd Avenue. It's great. And thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you. Next is Carla Pugia. Can we unmute Carla? Okay, you're on.
Yes, thank you. I do think that some of the changes are helpful and they make it Third Avenue better. However, I still think that we can overdesign Third Avenue for the e-bikes, especially because there is no enforcement on the e-bike of the road rules. So I think we should put a lot more effort in trying to prevent people from running red light or going on the sidewalk. I've been living here for many years. I've never been hit by a car. I've been hit in the last few years by bikes 3 times, right? Once on the sidewalk, 2 times crossing with a green, once with the bikes that were coming one way, once they were just burning a light. So it feels odd that we're just changing our streets without addressing the real challenge that is, enforcing road rules on everybody, e-bikes included, and maybe they need a tag number, right? Just like anybody else, they need to start getting tickets. I don't know, but I would think that's a priority. The limit is 25 miles per hour in the city, so I don't see why we should slow down even those times in which people could do, like at night, 20 miles per hour. And you see that after 7 p.m., people do drive faster. So I'm good with some of the changes, but 15 miles per hour, I don't support. And I also think that we're not doing enough to make e-bikes, like everybody else, respect the rules.
Thank you. I'll just say for the record that we had traffic enforcement from the police department here a couple of months ago. They said they have a major program to target bicycles, and they've issued thousands of summonses on bicycles. So that is something that is happening, and this board has passed a resolution that says there ought to be some identification on bicycles so that they would be subject to ticketing and you'd have some way to identify them. So we're keenly aware of those issues. Okay, let me go on to Kamalkant Agarwal. Mr. Agarwal, you can unmute.
Hello.
Go ahead, you're on.
Thank you for giving me a chance. My main point, I'm a resident of 389 East on 89th Street, and my main point is about the parking for delivery, but on the e-bikes, and I fully endorse what everyone has said, it's an extremely serious issue. The speed at which they come and your time that you get to see them is very, very limited. And every time you just have to keep your fingers crossed that you don't get hit by them. I mean, I don't know how they can be allowed to drive so fast. And because your visibility is limited, this is especially at the crossing, and the crossings are supposed to be the safe places where you cross the road. And that's the point where you are at biggest risk with the e-bikes coming at this phenomenal speed. So that is the side point. But coming on the parking for the delivery trucks, I think whichever place you pick, and especially you've chosen 389 East, it's a big inconvenience and troublesome for the residents of the building. And I don't think that's the right way to deal with this. The first and most important is, people are delivering at all different places, not at one place, right? So they should be allowed to stop places which are more convenient to them rather than allocating one slot to them and then having to walk, and the trucks will be parked for half an hour or 1 hour, causing major inconveniences to the residents. Or on the main streets, the 3rd Avenue, 2nd Avenue, 1st Avenue, where you have these parking spots already built in. Give 1 or 2 of those parking slots to them. Those don't cause any inconvenience to anyone, and then they can go inside 89, 88, 87 and make their deliveries. So I don't think picking any building and ruining the residents, both convenience and making it troublesome for the residents of that building is the right way to go about it.
Thank you, Mr. Agawam. Okay, next I see someone with initials KP. If you could unmute and identify yourself for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Catherine Park. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not 100% sure about the speed but just in terms of, I just want to comment on the bikes, both e-bikes and actually cyclists.
Sure.
They do not follow the traffic laws. I have to always look both ways. It doesn't matter if it's a two-way street or a one-way street. And I am constantly in fear of getting hit by the bikes. And so that's something that I really want the Department of Transportation to take into consideration of, whether it be educating a lot of the delivery people. I do understand that it is a livelihood for them. So I don't know if they can work together to better educate and make sure that they're following traffic laws so that pedestrians are kept safe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, Leah. Leah L., identify yourself, Leah, even though we know who you are.
It's Leah Hanlon.
Right.
I've got a question, actually, picking up on what I think Catherine just said about e-bikes going the wrong direction. I've had several very close calls on 3rd Avenue in just the last month, although this goes back years on other avenues as well, where an e-bike is going through a red in the wrong direction. And either your vision is blocked by construction or something, or you just naturally look in the right direction before you look in the wrong direction. There's not even, not that we want to encourage them to go the wrong direction, but how do they even know that there is a red light when they're driving the wrong direction on a road? Because I'm just increasingly having close calls with vehicles going through the red in the wrong direction on 3rd Avenue. That's a question for the guest.
Carl, I don't know if that's good.
I guess this is maybe a good point or a good time to just mention a couple things. Sorry, I'm getting a bit of an echo. In terms of education and outreach, I did mention that, we do have joint operations with NYPD, and it was mentioned before that NYPD has certainly stepped up their enforcement, which I think has noticeably led to, some behavior change already. But it takes time, of course, to really change behavior. And as I mentioned, of course, there's other, legislative things that could also be done, and regulatory things around especially around app-based deliveries. But we have been doing a lot of public awareness recently as well around e-bikes. We have $1 million media campaign that's launching, or that's launched, I guess, that's called Get Smart Before You Start. And that really is focused on like how to, use these safely and what the rules of the road are. But we also do a lot of delivery worker engagement, and we have seminar events to talk to them about the rules of the road, and distribute flyers. I think they've gone out to well over 8,000 delivery workers. So, there is work being done to get the message out. Obviously, there's still work to be done, and it takes time to do behavior change, and there's a lot of levers that we have to pull. But again, like I want to, point out that like First Avenue, when the street has the most traffic on it, it was already going at 10 miles per hour. This is an opportunity for us to sort of reduce the possibility of cyclists running the red lights. It's a way to allow for better interactions at intersections. That's the whole reason we did this. And so it is focused on sort of pedestrian safety and trying to improve that behavior on the street. And it's not really affecting traffic speeds that much. We can look at overnight, of course, but that's also when the volumes are lower. And I think it's a question about whether or not what speeds we want on Third Avenue in the in the evenings and overnight. So, but I just wanted to reiterate those points and bring up the other pieces of information around that. That we do a considerable amount of outreach and education, and I think we're slowly starting to see some changes on the road, and we'll continue to push and look for every opportunity that's out there to make those changes.
Thank you, Carl. There's some others who haven't spoken yet. Noah Mesur. Can we unmute? Go ahead, Noah.
Hi, how's it going?
Unmuted.
So I'm Noah. I live in the 90s and I'm a pedestrian. I regularly, a couple times a week, will walk about 60 blocks down to work, and often through Third Avenue. And I have noticed that Third Avenue feels calmer, feels easier to cross, and I'm in favor of the slowdown of the vehicles and the reduction in pedestrian injuries. So just wanted to voice my support. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. No. Next is Gregory Spector. Can we unmute Gregory? Go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead. Yeah, you're on, Greg.
This is my first time attending.
Welcome.
Meetings.
Welcome.
Thank you. And I'm really concerned with the location, with the proposed location of this loading station on 89th Street. It's at the
that's the next. That's not this issue.
I just heard somebody talking about it, and I wanted to
he brought it out tangentially, but we're going to have a discussion of the micro places. Micro hubs, yeah.
Okay, I'll wait until then.
And yeah, if you could, because there'll be plenty of time to discuss that. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Now, Eddie, I don't see anyone else's hand.
I think I have one member, Chuck, who of the public who hasn't spoken. Jeffrey, if you are trying to make a comment, Jeffrey B. Angle. Look for a prompt on your device to unmute.
Go. Yeah,
no, he chatted me just an emoji of a hand.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jeffrey. Yeah.
Okay, am I on?
Yep.
Okay, hi. So I live on 77th Street between 2nd and 3rd, and I guess the conversation right now is about e-bikes, etc. I guess I missed the Birch-Waltham part of it.
Yeah.
But, we definitely have a problem with bikes in general, just not obeying the traffic laws. And I probably walk 6-7 miles a day, and it's a problem. I have yet to see a New York City police or traffic officer give a ticket out to anyone on the bikes at all. And it's always like you get hit. I saw a guy get hit on 78th Street and 2nd today. Car ran into him. He just went right across. I know these delivery guys are working, but they got to respect the laws. It's tough. Can I ask how the thing on Birch worked out? Because I live across the street.
Yeah, it was passed. It was approved.
Okay, so a question then, like, does that mean that all the cars are not going to be parking on the street when Birch has the street?
Oh, I think there'll be some car, if cars are there, they'll be there.
No, they said that they will not remove cars.
Right.
Yeah.
Parking's unaffected, and those who need to access their cars will not be restricted from doing so during that time.
Okay.
Can I just say something? Nothing has been approved. This is a subcommittee of the full board.
This is not a subcommittee, it's a committee.
Well, it's a committee of the board, but
it has to go. It goes. You're right. I was going to say that,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, so
This will be taken up at the full board 2 weeks from today.
Okay, so the question I have is on garbage removal.
No.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but we can't. We've moved on from that topic, and we're talking about the Third Avenue changes now. Well, you could review the video and.
Can I just make a comment to the board for a second, please?
On what?
Our streets are not getting cleaned. Cars don't move on street cleaning day. I'm the only single family resident owner of this street across from Birch. Birch has not even asked me how I care about it. But for me, if you get all the cars off the street and get the garbage cleaned off the curbs and the rats that run around rampant on our street, that's a much bigger problem. I don't know. I don't see how ambulances are going to get up and down the street. I guess you solved that problem. And I feel bad for all the merchants on the street who are going to lose business because Birch wants to have.
Yeah,
Hold on,
we need.
I love Birch. My kids went to Birch.
Wait,
Okay, Jeffrey, we really can't take up much more time on this, but we'll have we can have the have you talked to have you called 311 and talked to the sanitation, get it sent, I mean, to make a complaint to the sanitation department? Okay, I suggest you did, or call the board office and talk to the folks there, and they can help you with that. Okay. Let me go to the board here. First, Sebastian Hallam Clark.
Thanks, Chuck. Carl, would you mind bringing back up slide 4 from your presentation? I just really want to thank the DOT for coming back with data. This is what we asked for last time, and this is really rich information to help inform our discussion. So thank you very much for that. On this slide 4, I think the really remarkable thing is how we're seeing that the daytime speeds are remaining basically the same, despite the fact that the traffic signals have been retimed. So I guess 2 questions, if I may, Carl. The first would be, would you just clarify what was the signal timing before it was put at 15?
It was 25 miles per hour.
25.
Okay. Thank you. And then given that we are seeing in the daytime hours, the average speeds are at about 10 miles per hour, how does that inform your thinking on whether either 15 or maybe 10 miles per hour would be the speed that might optimize for flow and safety? I don't presume to know the answer, but I guess, how do you think, I guess, would 10 miles per hour be better?
It's an interesting question. I think, you know, it's something that, you know, it requires, you know, further study in this case. But you know, when the traffic speeds are so far off from the signal progression, there actually I think is and you know, I think from what we see here, but also in you know, other locations and things that have been, you know, studied and peer reviewed, that traffic progression that better matches the speed actually smooths the traffic flow. And so that, you know, it could result in like less blocking of the box, for example, and sort of clearing of intersections. So there can be some more, you know, advantages certainly to sort of matching those speeds. When you have such a big difference, you know, the 25 miles an hour that it's timed at versus the 10 miles an hour that people were already traveling, that's when you do get some, you know, some essentially waves propagating back in the opposite direction, and that's often what leads to sort of the blocking of the box and some of the other issues and the less smooth flow. So I think having those speeds together actually does have a real advantage.
Yeah, totally. Oh, thank you. I guess I would love to encourage DOT to be looking at maybe whether a lower timing might optimize that flow. Obviously, there are lots of different factors to be considering. And then I guess just overall seeing that this change, while we may accept that it is not going to solve all problems on our streetscape, it does seem to me to be a change that is making things a bit safer for our road users, a bit safer for pedestrians. Especially, I really love seeing those vehicles going a bit slower in the nighttime, meaning that, as all of those comments you were making, Carl, around how drivers can have better peripheral vision, and in those hours. So I really appreciate the data, and thank you for coming back to the board on this.
Next, Valerie, you
Hey,
got your
thanks.
hand up.
Yeah. Hi, Carl. It's good to see you. We went on the walkthrough together, you and
Hello.
Julie Menon, and I want to just reiterate what Sebastian just said. We really appreciate you coming back to us this quickly on the redesign, as opposed to Lexington Avenue, which we had to wait a fair amount of time. So I do appreciate that. I'm a little confused. One of your slides, and I'm not as good at remembering it as Sebastian, but one of your slides showed a marked, which is always acceptable, decrease in the number of accidents and crashes. but can you pull that slide up for a second?
Sure. Okay, so that would have
Sorry to
been
slow us all down here.
no problem. Here you go.
Okay, so the data you're showing on 2016 to 2020, it's when we didn't have the redesign, it looks like the speeds are almost the same throughout the day. So why, I mean, I'm not convinced that the redesign has actually resulted in these fewer injuries, because are you saying that the traffic all during the day and night was moving much faster, and therefore, I mean, I don't get Craig and Chuck know that I'm a stickler for causation and correlation. I'm trying to understand. I appreciate, look, I'm always in favor of fewer injuries and deaths, but I'm not seeing exactly based on the speeds of the cars and how this comes about. So can you help me with that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's a good question. So we and this is kind of in line of what we would expect for similar projects. And the reason why is certainly the speeds during the day are similar, if not no different, but overnight the speeds may be higher. But the real advantages to these street redesigns, and this has been like we've studied this in depth, and certainly put out plenty of papers and reports on it. But it's a combination of factors. So it's not a single thing, but it's the way that we reduce the exposure for pedestrians by shortening the crossing distance, or the number of active travel lanes that they have to cross. It's the sort of the hardened daylighting, so the visibility is better at the intersection. It's the way that we slow the turns, because the vast majority of these crashes occur at intersections, and so we're essentially calming the intersections. We're slowing the turns. We're reducing the distance or the number of even receiving lanes where drivers can turn into. So there's like less of a sort of a conflict zone between drivers and pedestrians.
Well,
so it's all these factors combined.
yeah, I know, but the three major factors that you just mentioned had nothing to do with reduction of the speed of the lights. They had all to do with creating the daylighting and the other piece of it. So again, when you put this data out there, I think it's a little bit of a misrepresentation to say that it's from the timing of the lights. You're saying it has more, at least I'm hearing you saying the three things that you mentioned first had more to do with creating a shorter walkway and daylighting, as opposed to because at least at 3rd Avenue and 72nd Street, the main reason for crashes was the left turn. And so the daylighting, I think, is effective there, but the slowing of the speed doesn't seem to have any effect on anything. And I would just point out, I think it's a real negative that nothing positive is happening with bus speeds. If we're trying to encourage people to use public transportation along the corridors, the fact that the bus speed is slower, if not, flat, I think is a major failure, if you will, of the redesign.
Okay, so a couple of things before I forget all those points. So for the bus speeds, I mean the bus speeds, the bus lane, the offset bus lane was added as part of the project. So the speed data that I was showing there was just showing that the bus speeds were unchanged by the signal timing change, but that was the baseline was with this new offset bus lane. So it wasn't before the project was put in. So that's one. Two, in terms of the safety data, what I'm presenting here on this slide, this was sort of the description of the project, right? Like, so all the elements that we had included. And so this safety data was speaking specifically to that. The next slide is when I start talking about the traffic signal timing. So it's too early to tell about the safety data in terms of the signal timing.
Okay.
But it's the effect of the street redesign, absolutely. Now, overnight speeds certainly do contribute to crashes and overnight crashes. We know that. And by slowing vehicle speeds overnight through the neighborhood, you are most likely going to reduce crashes and certainly reduce the severity of crashes. So those things are there's causality there for sure. So
Okay, well, I mean, I would appreciate you guys coming back when you have a little bit more data to show us what you think is making the most the biggest difference, because I just think that to just say, 54% decrease in pedestrian injuries, if most of the pedestrian injuries were caused from left turns, then I would think it would be helpful to say that, perhaps daylighting, if that's the reason, is the correlation, causal connection between the reduction in the injuries. The last point I wanted to make is, I think that you didn't talk about any increase in traffic along Park Avenue, because one of the things that we were talking about when we did the walkthrough, and I saw some of the public shaking their head, not really believing your data, that the traffic on First Avenue what hasn't been adversely affected. I mean, I can just tell you, it's like gridlock all the time on First Avenue now. And that may not very well be directly or caused by the Third Avenue redesign. It may be a combination of congestion pricing and coming off the bridge and trying to avoid going into the zone and a number of other factors. But it certainly does seem like traffic on First Avenue is really slowed down. The other thing I want to know is, does the DOT invest in any kind of and I'm sure the answer is going to be no, the fact that the cars are moving slower, what is the effect on the environment that they're staying longer at these lights overall? And so that's my final question. Park Avenue and environmental.
Are they staying longer? Are they staying longer at the lights? We don't know that.
I just think I think it's hard. I don't know how they're doing testing that the traffic isn't worse on First Avenue. I mean, we're getting a lot of complaints about.
Valerie, I'm always interested to see people say, well, anecdotally, we say this. What they have data, I assume.
Well, how are they gathering the data? Because I don't see anybody.
Can we go back to that graphic possibly, so we could talk about First Avenue in case it wasn't clear to everyone?
Yeah. Let's go back and see. I mean, I assume you can tell us how you do this data. I assume it's monitoring on a regular basis. You're not making it up.
Let's ask them and not give them the answer, Chuck.
They gave the source. It's INRIX, which is the
Chuck,
probably
Craig, let Carl is very well versed. Let him give the answer on how they do their data. Thank you.
Yeah, Craig.
But you want to run the meeting?
The data is the data is from INRIX. It's a massive data aggregator of a number of different sources of GPS data, connected vehicle data, and many other things that have very high ping rates and that give you instantaneous and accurate speeds. So it's a huge data set. And it's a really valuable one for providing real-time information on traffic speeds. So and we can pull that for other corridors. Of course, I think I did pull it for I believe we looked at Park Avenue, certainly at Lexington, and it all showed the same pattern. There really, I think, was no difference. But I'm happy to pull that.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you. And this is First Avenue. Like like we talked about before, I don't personally haven't witnessed and observed First Avenue a lot, and I don't think that there's any difference in traffic patterns per your post, and certainly the speed data sort of bears that same story out. So sort of it's observational, but also the data points in that direction.
So seeing is not believing.
Depends on, I mean, I also look at First Avenue a lot, and
No, I know you do. We had a very frank conversation,
Yeah.
and the council member was actually the one who brought up the fact that they were getting the call. So okay, And what
Okay,
about
thank
the
you.
environmental piece?
So the environmental piece is interesting. I think obviously you would have to see stopping and starting is part of it, but again, you're not seeing it. The most of the pollution I think comes from acceleration, right? So if it's not vehicles idling are a little bit, but it's really the acceleration that causes most of the most of the pollution. And so if you have smooth traffic flow, that's sort of the best way to improve that. And from the signal timing, having a smooth, consistent signal timing is a great way to reduce emissions. And whether that's 15 or 25, I don't know that it makes a big difference.
Okay.
But
Thank you. Okay.
Mhm.
Paul Crickler,
Wait,
do you want to
before
say
Paul
something,
goes,
Craig? You want to say
before
something
Paul goes,
about
I just
that?
want to follow up on a few things. Well, it's just going back to what we were just talking about and the perception of travel times and stuff. I just want to bring um to the table the psychological impacts of the way that people perceive versus the realities of transportation and traffic and travel times and stuff. And we see this all the time when we talk about transit and the fact that there's all sorts of data, and Carl, you could probably talk to this also, that substantiates that people, when they know how long it is going to be until the next bus or the next train is supposed to show up in real time, it is it makes it seem as if the wait is actually not as bad as if you have that unpredictability. And there's there tends to be bias, if you will, when it comes to knowing that there's a change in some sort of um reality, in this case, let's say the traffic signals, and you're expecting that it's going to be worse if you're experiencing some sort of slowdown on whether it be First Avenue or Park Avenue. And I'm not saying I know the data and that the data says something otherwise, but I think that same psychology that we talk about when it comes to transportation, the way that people perceive their experiences is certainly colored um by these perceptions. So I just want to, I again, not speaking to the data, but I'm comforted to see the data that was just shown on First Avenue that depicts that travel times really haven't changed that much, or speeds haven't changed much at all. And it actually looks like that we've seen increases during the midday, ever so slight on First Avenue. I also, along those same lines, am very comforted to see that the bus speeds don't seem to have been adversely impacted at all. It really looks like that compared to the baseline since the complete street was implemented, I expressed concerns last month that the bus speeds were going to be inadvertently impacted, that this would be an unintended consequence of what I otherwise consider to be a very good change on Third Avenue. And I am very excited to see that that data does not bear it out during the times of day that most people are riding the buses. And I think there are also, I just want to note that I think there just tends to be um, in general an association with e-bikes and an opposition to the changes that have taken place on Third Avenue. But I just want to put out there, like, if we zoom out a bit, if we theoretically got rid of the bike lanes on Third Avenue or anywhere for that matter, we'd still have e-bikes and deliveristas on Third Avenue and on all of our streets, but it would be much more unorganized and chaotic. And I think it's generally much better when we know where to expect them than to be taken by surprise. And I said this last month, and I'll say it again because I think about it all the time ever since we had this discussion. I feel a lot more comfortable every day when I cross 86th Street and Third Avenue um, since the changes have gone in, because it is much more predictable now. And I do think there are these behavior improvements, if you will. And I think that's the other thing that's maybe getting a little bit lost in here, which is that these changes I think it's the framing of it that everyone is thinking that it is geared towards cyclists and to improve the cyclist experience. But I think it's really overall meant to improve the experience for all users of it. And by essentially forcing cyclists to remain at a speed and to create those behaviors that we all want to encourage to have them follow traffic laws, that it is making it safer for pedestrians in general. And I'm not discounting the concerns that anyone has raised about e-bikes in general, or anyone who is in operating a bike or any motor vehicle type for that matter, that doesn't follow traffic laws or doesn't yield to pedestrians. But just don't think that means that we shouldn't be taking action to try to encourage positive behavior. So I just again want to thank Carl and New York City DOT for so quickly getting back to us with this. I do agree entirely with Valerie that we need to see more data and have this fleshed out, because this is really a short amount of time and there's been a lot of change recently. So I don't want anyone to confuse this presentation with this making a declarative statement that the green wave has all of a sudden made things safer, and I think perceptions matter. From my perspective, that perception is that it is better, and the data so far from year to year clearly shows that the worst case scenario that I think some people think from a psychological standpoint isn't coming to fruition. So thank you for that.
Thanks. Paul Crickler next. Go ahead, Paul.
Thank you, Chuck. I'm hugely in favor of all these various changes that have been made. And I understand fully, Carl, from what you're saying, that it's an accumulation of lots of these elements in design. My favorites personally are the fact that bike lane's so wide, it's safer that way. And also this offset turning, I think it's been dramatically safer as a feeling of when you're cycling. It just feels night and day safer. I understand also that you can't point any one thing to account for all the massive drop in injuries and deaths. So first of all, thank you for giving us a massive drop in injuries and deaths in our neighborhood. I'm hugely in favor of that. I'm a little bit, and also before this, by the way, it's not just the bare numbers. Most people would agree, I think, that anywhere on Third Avenue was terrifying. Certainly if you were older or infirm or had trouble getting across, it's terrifying crossing seven. It was terrifying crossing 7 lanes of, racing traffic. Sometimes you couldn't get across in time. The cars would zoom off. The fact there are less lanes now means the cars zoom off even less. So lots of reasons this works well. And I guess one last comment is I fail to see the concern that many people seem to have. Could just be me. It's been a few years since I drove a car, but if I was driving my car up Third Avenue, typically during the day between 10 and 15 miles an hour, and this timing thing changed, and I'm still now driving between 10 and 15 miles an hour at the same speed, I fail to see what the problem is. If they made the speed limit 50 miles an hour, you still wouldn't be driving any faster than 10 or 15 miles an hour. That's just the reality. It's been that way since before this change made. So I'll stop talking there. I've probably confused everyone. Thank you.
Okay, DJ Falks next. DJ, go ahead.
I just want to thank Carl for the comments and data. That was really helpful. Echoing some points already as I was jotting down, Craig, you took a lot of my points, so I don't want to repeat too much, but the data we've seen is encouraging. The street redesign, protected bike lane, love daylighting, which is a really big topic, I think is clearly kind of reduced injuries, and we should acknowledge that. But on the green wave signal timing, we really need to acknowledge the data is kind of clear there. It hasn't slowed down cars during the day. They've remained steady. There is a shift at night, and maybe that's something people feel differently about addressing. I don't think it's too bad for cars to be going a little bit slower at night as well. There's been some concern about congestion. Valerie, you mentioned it for First Avenue. It's definitely frustrating, but it's been around for a while, especially post-pandemic, and we should be clear about what's causing it. It's not signal timing. It's certainly not congestion pricing, where the causality is kind of flipped there. It's the math of there being too many cars and not enough space. Congestion pricing was designed to help manage it. I want to address e-bikes since that's come up so much, that are used for delivery. The concerns are really valid. I ride a manual bike or whatever the word for it is. And yeah, I've definitely been a little concerned myself with the sidewalk riding as well. It creates a lot of stress and fear. This was a major theme in the recent council primaries for a reason. So I hope everyone expressing concern was, voting for their candidate of choice who has solutions in place. The one I personally favor is direct regulation of the delivery apps to change the behaviors. But we do need to acknowledge the trade-offs there. Safer and slower deliveries may mean more expensive deliveries. And that's fine for you if you don't ever order delivery, but I think a lot of people do, which is why there's so many deliveries out there. If we want safer streets, we may need to accept more expensive and slower food deliveries, or just be willing to have fewer inside to get food. One final thing, I know I've been talking for a while on tone. I just want to say I don't like some of the rhetoric I've heard tonight about ideological takeovers or shadowy lobbying groups. I don't think it helps drive outcomes. We have to acknowledge that disagreement doesn't mean conspiracy. Someone proposing a different path or favoring what DOT has done isn't part of some insidious plot. They may just genuinely see a better way to use public space. And if we're being honest, the real force that shaped streets for a long time, and the one that's gone unquestioned, isn't the lobby group, it's the status quo of car dominance and the deep resistance to changing it. It's not a conspiracy, it's inertia. And some people are starting to speak up about it. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, DJ. And I appreciate the comment about people not questioning others' motives, and we shouldn't do that. And I usually try to discourage that. I've probably been a little slower than I should be tonight in doing that. All right, listen, we've really gone a long time on this. I see we have 3 public hands up, and if you'll keep it short, we'll take these last 3. And Andrew Fine, and go ahead.
Thank you so much, Chuck. I appreciate DJ's comment, but I would like just to say that if you are either paid by or on the board of a special interest group like Transportation Alternatives or Open Plans, that you should disclose that before you make a comment. And if you're a voting member, you should recuse yourself from voting. And we know that our previous or our current Manhattan Borough President has stacked many boards with many people that represent his particular political viewpoint. Many of those people are actually paid by special interest groups, and they should not be a voting member of a community board. And because community boards are about the community, and I've had conversations with our next borough president about this particular issue, and he has promised me and a number of us that community will take priority. So if you are affiliated with a special interest group, I would just ask that you please disclose that, and please do not vote on matters of public interest in relation to whatever special interest group that you represent. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just need to, and Chuck, you may want to speak to this also. There are no requirements
That's not a
in community.
conspiracy.
There are no requirements in the realm of community boards that anyone has to disclose anything. All of our applications, I think, are publicly accessible. There are no secrets here. And I think we need to recognize that different people have different opinions, and for recusal, there are very clear rules in regards to conflicts of interest that board members are expected to adhere to. And just because you are representing an organization on whatever side of the coin, you don't need to, you are allowed to represent whatever it is on the community board.
I just want to Craig, I'm not going to dispute what you're saying. I just want to make it clear that
How about asking to be recognized?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I apologize, Craig. I apologize, Chuck. I didn't even realize that I saw that I was on, so I thought I was.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead, you.
I just want to say that I think, Andrew, you're making a point that doesn't relate to this board. We pride ourselves on being able to represent everyone, and people can be members of organizations. There's a differential between being a member of an organization and being a paid employee of that organization. And so that's not on this board, as far as I'm aware. And I just want to put that out there. So people are entitled to their opinions. And just like you're a member of EFSA, people are members of other organizations, and we have to respect that. So that's all I want to say. Sorry, Chuck, I apologize. Somebody mute me so I know that I'm being.
You also said that a lot more clearly and concisely than I did, so thank you.
Okay, Yasmina, next.
Yeah, I just to speak to that, as a working class member of society, this is my one opportunity to have my voice heard. And there is an incredible power differential between my voice and well-funded, well-organized lobbyists. So I do object to lobbyists sitting on our board and not declaring their affiliation and freely voting on items that they are actively lobbying for. And there are conflict of interest guidelines, but it's very difficult for a member of the public to prove a conflict of interest. I can't FOIA a nonprofit. I can't prove the money trail to who's sitting here and actually being paid somehow to be here, or a person like me who is now like I went to work at 9. I got here and I got on a little late before 7, and I'm not being paid to be here, but I'm here because I want my kids to have a better quality of life. Back to the issue
We
at
could all
hand.
be paid for being here. We are all volunteers.
Sure.
We are all volunteers
Yes, you're a volunteer.
spending a lot of hours per month.
I'm sorry, is this my time to
dedicated.
speak? Is this
Yeah,
my
but
time
he's
to
the
speak, or is this
he's
your
the
time?
co-chair.
I'm a
he's
co-chair.
our co-chair.
I think this is again an unfounded attack on our members and our community board, and it's not
Well,
appropriate.
I find it curious that you're taking this so personally. I actually didn't have you in mind when I was saying this.
It doesn't
It's
matter
a
who's
general
in
issue.
mind.
It's a general issue that citizens citywide are sensing that we have far less power on our community boards, and we are not being represented. And our community boards are being, it's now a misnomer.
Thank you,
No longer
Yasmina.
feeling like
Thank you.
Listen, I'll just say this. I've been on this board a long time, and Community Board 8 here, we've been very careful, as Valerie, our board chair, said, to follow the conflict of interest rules and recuse. And my policy, my own personal policy, is that I don't even take part in the discussion on issues if I do have a conflict of interest, even though you're allowed to do that once you disclose your conflict of interest. But I choose not to because I don't want to influence the discussion one way or another. But and I think that I don't know of any members on our committee, and I'm not sure, I don't know some of the newer board members of what they all do in detail, but we don't have any members of our committee that I know of that have conflicts of interest where they vote without disclosing them. But the Paula Courtney, okay.
We still do need to have the DOT give their updates.
Yes, I know. We're still. You can't. You're not unmuted, Ms. Courtney. Did you have a prompt on your screen that you could see?
Oh, did you want to move on to Paula?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Paula.
Let's just finish up.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was trying to unmute, but someone.
That's okay. That's all right.
So my interest, I'm a resident of 360 East 89th, and my interest is knowing when we're going to get to the next agenda item, because that is why I participated in this call. I'm very fascinated by the topics and the discussion, but it is now almost it is a quarter to 9 Eastern.
Yes.
And I need to go to bed soon, and I would like to know when we could deal with that very important issue.
Yes, we're gonna proceed. We're gonna
Thank you.
proceed very. I'll take one more quick comment. There are two more people, and Yasmin has already spoken several times, so we're not. Ashna, show me, I guess, or Shom.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Ashton, try that again. Sorry.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we hear you. Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Dr. Shom. I'm a resident. I live on the Upper East Side and I commute to Jacoby. I just have an issue with an express bus. I'm not sure if it's an appropriate forum to bring it to or not.
Well, you know what you should do, though?
Mhm.
Wait till we have old business. We'll get to that shortly, okay? If it's that's a separate issue because we're talking about this one issue now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Lori, last comment, Lori Boris. Go ahead, Lori.
Thank you, Chuck. I wasn't even going to speak, but I just can't ignore the attacks that seem to be coming from a bunch of places. But I just want to be clear that nobody here is paid. I am not paid to be here. Nobody else is paid to be here. And it seems like you don't believe that that's the case. But we are all volunteers, and it's upsetting to be attacked for work that we're doing because we love this community. So that's all I wanted to say.
Well, thanks. We're gonna. Why don't we go on now to the next topic? Thanks, everyone. And the next is, do we have, before we go to the micro hubs, is there any update? Or maybe why don't we go to the micro hubs first right now? Because people are here for the micro hubs.
Yes. Hi, Chuck. It's Colleen. I agree. Let's move on with the micro hubs because there's a lot of folks here.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, let's,
Hi.
do you want to Colleen, do you want to start the discussion or handle the
Sure.
discussion however you want to?
Hi, everyone. It's Colleen Chattergoon from City Department of Transportation. Tonight, we're here to give a presentation on the New York City DOT microhub program. And my colleague, Catherine Ponte, who's in the meeting with me, she'll give the presentation. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. And for the interest of time, we already gave a presentation on microhubs a couple of months ago. So I feel like, you already have that. We sent a deck that offers a refresher on the content covered. So I'm going to probably just get to the chase of what we're here for. So we're inviting you all to share recommended locations. Now, we don't have to have a microhub pilot location in the Upper East Side, but there was some interest expressed. So we would love to hear from the community what locations you feel would be most beneficial to sort of facilitate that. We shared our placement criteria. We had some initial suggested sites for you to consider and the opportunity for you to kind of take that as inspiration to offer additional sites that you feel would be even better for us to look at more deeply. The next phase, once we have some sites that seem, in accordance, like with the majority of the community that seem of interest, we can then take that, look a little bit more deeply, make sure that they align with the interests of the pilot participants, and also, that they don't conflict with any local businesses and their curb needs. So that's really where we're at. So we would love to, you can fill the spreadsheet out that was circulated amongst the community board with your recommendations, with your suggestions. I also, in recognition of like a lot of the concerns raised, we have 3 different kinds of microhubs that we're willing to test. So if people feel that certain locations are maybe better for a truck to walker model as opposed to a truck to cargo bike or truck to e-cargo van model, that's great feedback. We have a lot of flexibility here, and we want to be responsive to what works best in your community and you as the experts of your neighborhood, really being able to hear your feedback, in addition to, the research that we've done. So that is what the deck that was shared with you and the spreadsheet. You can go ahead and if you haven't, come together as a community board, fill it out, email it back to us, and we can continue to further explore the sites that you recommend. But that's really kind of where we're at and the kind of feedback that we're looking for. These are by no means like the sites that were shared in that spreadsheet are just suggestions. So please, we're not looking for a resolution. We're just looking for, recommendations, feedback from people who live, work, and are invested in this community, see it on a daily basis in a much more in a ways that we, as workers might not get the opportunity to. And that feedback is really valuable for us as we move toward. And again, like I said, this is optional. Like we really are looking at maybe 1 or 2 sites at most in the neighborhood right now as part of this pilot. So again, it's really we really want to hear back from you and be responsive to your needs.
Catherine, I just want to point out that this is an issue that's been that we've had come before our board, not the micro hubs issue, but the issue of the double parking of all of the delivery trucks that happen all over the neighborhood, with all of the trucks like Amazon, UPS, you name it, all of the delivery companies that are doing this every day. And we've had a lot of complaints over and over again, frankly, in our committee about that. And I think the idea of trying this as a pilot program, I think makes a lot of sense. And so with that, I'll open it to questions and from the members of the public. And I see we have a number of hands up, and we'll take people. Erica Caston, I believe you're first up. If you see a prompt there on the screen, and just press that, and you'll unmute. Will, is there a reason that Erica is having a problem here?
Erica, you should be getting a prompt. I'm sorry about that.
There you go. Now
I just got it.
Now you're on.
Hi, my name is Erica. I live, I'm an owner in 389 East 89th Street, which I understand is one of the locations that's being either suggested or put out there. And I just wanted to voice my opinion that I'm against this. Kind of puzzled as to how this would be a suggestion to begin with. 89th Street between 2nd and 3rd, between 1st and 2nd is a residential area. Residential block. It's one thing that we have Seatown, which faces 1st Avenue, but this is a block filled with family, filled with kids. I think that having a stop for these delivery services to unbox and rearrange would just greatly take away from our street. I mean, this is also a very dog-friendly street. We have kids playing outside. I know that there are several families within my own building who will go outside with the kids and play catch. And putting a stop in front of our street, which is also directly across from 360, is just not, I just think it would be terrible for the block. Also, I think that we've all seen the trucks in the middle of the street stopped with the sorting the boxes. They're throwing boxes. They're loud. There's garbage. I don't understand why we would want to bring that to a residential block. There are many blocks in the Upper East Side that have a bit more of a commercial feel. And I think that would be more appropriate. So I would appreciate if that would be considered instead.
Yeah, so if you can add that to the spreadsheet and just so that we can have that the feedback in writing so we can reference it, that would be wonderful. And certainly, I think part of it is controlling that sort of unregulated behavior that you're mentioning. And yes, you're right. We are looking for larger, a bit wider, more commercial feeling streets. We prefer not to site on residential streets, but there are some larger residential streets in the area. So might be why that street was considered in the first place, but thank you for that feedback.
Okay, Michael Marston, second. Go ahead, Michael. There you go, you're on.
Okay, hi everyone. All right, Catherine, thanks for your information. So I live in 389 East 89th, and we've been living here for about 10 years. And first off, I'm curious how you decided on 89th Street or 389 East 89th Street to be one of the suggested piloted addresses. You can come back to me in a second. So first off, I think safety will be a major, major issue. There will be boxes all over the street and the sidewalks. Over 50% of our building have young children and infants. What safeguards will be put in place by these delivery people who are, on the clock to deliver their packages as fast as possible? What happens if some stacked boxes fall off a hand truck and harm someone, or if someone trips over a box? Next, our property values. If a micro hub is put in front of our building here, our property values will plummet probably 10 to 20%. Okay, have you considered that? Will the owners and the residents of our building and 360 across the street affected, because of this micro hub, receive any monetary benefit from these micro hubs? This seems to be discriminatory against 389 East 89th Street. All of the other buildings in our area will not have their property values diminished because of this. Why us? How can we be compensated if this is approved?
Is that, oh, you still got some more? Please.
Yeah, I got more.
Okay. All right, because I can speak to what you shared.
Okay, just you come back to me after I'm on a roll
Okay, yeah,
here.
please go. Yeah, go
So
ahead.
FedEx, UPS, and Amazon, okay? Typically, in my experience, FedEx and UPS have drivers that have set routes, okay? They're unionized typically. They typically load up a hand truck and deliver. Amazon, on the other hand, uses contractors like Dutch Express. I know this firsthand as one of my children work for them. They typically rent out box trucks, and they lay out all their packages on the street and sidewalks and distribute the packages to their delivery people. How are these delivery people vetted? Be more or less living in front of our building. Criminal checks, background checks. Since Amazon uses third-party vendors like Dutch Express who use contractors, how does this work as far as safety and all the people living in this neighborhood dealing with people that they don't know that are going to basically be living in front of their homes? Okay. Uh, where will the drop off for our family packages and families that we're able to do in front of our building? Okay, where will we now be able to do this? It's obvious to all of us that these trucks will be double parked. There'll be little bicycle delivery Amazon people. So we don't have a driveway in front of our building here.
Michael, I think we got the picture here.
Yeah.
You're the second one for 389 East 89th Street. So we got the picture. That's
Well,
not a
no,
good
no,
start.
no, no.
So
okay.
if you could sum up.
Yes, and then I can speak to some of the higher level questions, because I think we do have some considerations.
Well, go ahead.
On
Why
those
don't
points.
you speak to that, Catherine?
All right, great. So first off, in terms of this is a pilot. So for the people concerned about property values, this is only for 3 years, and for these on-street curbside micro hubs, it's a yearly permit. Mm-hmm. So that's first off, just to give some context over what we're looking at.
3 years?
It's a 3-year pilot to try the sites out, and the permits are only a year for each company. And within that, if it doesn't work out, we can just within the structure of the permit, if it's not working out, it can be stopped. Now, this isn't saying, again, I hear that this location in particular isn't a good site, and that's great. We are looking for this feedback, but just for other people to understand the structure of this, that this is a pilot program, it's not meant to be permanent. So in that sense, we're really testing this out. The idea is to take the activity that's already happening in an unregulated way on the street and try to give it a regulated space where they are mandated not to infringe on the right of way. They're not supposed to be double parking. They're not supposed to be putting packages on the sidewalk. And it's really to see that if we give these companies a dedicated space that's then safer for their workers and also safer for everyone around them, that they'll be able to stop these other behaviors. So that's really what we're trying to see if we can create an option for a more regulated version of what we're seeing unregulated currently. To the issues around, like, so I think that also touches on some of the safeguards. And in terms of, really, because these are permits, the permittees are paying the city to utilize this space and agreeing as part of that to be good neighbors, to and as such, not to be noisy, not to threaten or cause problems in the neighborhood. So really that is, we're trying to create we're trying to see through this pilot if we can kind of shift what's already happening in our roadway in a better direction. Now, that said, I think that we have this opportunity in terms of, within your community to really think strategically about where it makes the most sense to test out this pilot. And if it makes sense to test out this pilot in your neighborhood. I mean, there's a lot of delivery traffic in your neighborhood. And so really thinking about how to create some ways to minimize the truck traffic on the residential streets, I think is a good thing. In terms of citing, what we, kind of how we went about it was, we have the citing criteria that is in the deck that was shared, but really thinking about, the proximities, to the truck route network, to the bike network, to the transit network, thinking about generally larger
They
roadways,
just walk, Judge.
roadways that have, sufficient curb space. Within that, there's, I think within even in the suggestions, there's a lot of kind of wiggle room in terms of the exact location and size, and the kind of what typology makes that the most sense to test there.
Catherine, let's
Oh,
not get into we have a lot of people here
oh,
to
I'm
talk.
sorry.
Let's
Yeah, I
not
know
get
it's
into a
very
long
late. So, but
story.
I just
It's
wanted to try
it's
to
going to get
speak to
very
the
late.
high level concerns. So,
We're-
but it's in the deck, so you have that as a
Yeah,
reference.
people can look at the deck, and we're interested if there are sites that you don't think make sense. That's what we're interested in. Okay.
Question, because this may answer something that that many here may be looking to get some insight on. When this was presented in September of 2024 to this committee, that presentation included a discussion about a proposed micro hub on First Avenue between 89th and 90th Street. So what is the status of that proposal? And is that the same one that now seems to be shifted perhaps onto 89th Street, which you're hearing is creating some concerns?
So, I mean, there was originally concerns raised around there was a suggestion put forward. The community raised concerns around it. We've put forward some additional suggestions. Some of those were based on alternatives that other people have proposed as well. And that's really, where we're kind of at is just kind of getting this feedback and processing it. And so, I mean, like we went back to, we did, like a further analysis, tried to get some more sites, worked like with colleagues, got some suggestions for additional locations. Even, colleagues who lived in the neighborhood who are like, oh, this could be a really good location. And so that's sort of like our starting point, but really recognizing that, um, we want to, like I said, this is like we have the option of probably doing like one, maybe two, because we really have 20 sites citywide that we're really testing, right? So it's we tried to come up with like more numbers because like it seemed like people were having trouble to make suggestions without anything to work from. So we thought, well, let's put some suggestions out there just to kind of help encourage folks to respond, because there's lots of spaces where a microhub could conceivably fit and go, but it's like, is that appropriate to the neighborhood and to the community? we want to be sensitive to all of your concerns and the knowledge that you have that goes beyond what a GIS study can tell us.
Thank you. All right, let's go. Let's move on. Andrew Fine.
Thanks, Chuck. Just real quickly, I didn't want to imply in any way that people on this board are paid by special interest groups like transportation alternatives or open plans. It is a trend. Our antennae must be up because they have infiltrated other boards and they're paid special interests on other boards, which are voting and promoting issues. And Lori, by the way, I know, like, oh, believe me, my volunteer time has been, I just don't even know what I'm doing with my life. It's mainly volunteer time. To the topic at hand, I'm not sure if anybody here joined me at Jeff Bezos' wedding in Venice. But, you know, $55 million wedding. It was beautiful. It was fantastic. And great event. Do we really think that Jeff Bezos needs any more free or low cost access to our market? Do we think that he should devour our retail any further? I'm just wondering because this is where we're at. And to I think Michael's point, Dutch Express, these guys are not good people that are working for this company, and the company does not treat their people well. So I would be very wary of having these people on our streets, and they are on our streets. And finally,
Yeah, that's the point. They are on
yes,
already.
they're on our streets. But the problem here, Chuck, is that we've rezoned virtually all the parking on Third Avenue for commercial purposes. And guess what? Dutch Express and Amazon Logistics is parking in the second and third lane of traffic because they don't want to get boxed in. So I don't see the utility in reserving even more space for these people that will almost certainly just double and triple park anyway.
Well, that's your opinion. That's fine.
That's my
Okay.
opinion, and I thank you for hearing it out.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jason Young.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Jason, and I'm a resident at 389 East 89 as well. Just want to echo my fellow neighbors. I too want to voice my objection to the proposed placement in front of our building. We don't own a car, but like many families in the building, especially us with young kids, we do rely on that curb space for rideshare pickups and drop-offs. Personally, is where we install car seats and help our daughter in and out of vehicles safely. And Catherine, to your point about location, the street is already quite narrow. And on most Saturday mornings, we see firsthand how congested it gets from routine sanitation pickups. You know, I invite you and the board to come any Saturday morning to observe. It's not unusual at all to see a log jam between First and Third Avenues with cars stuck behind and between garbage trucks. Adding a micro hub with idling trucks, street level sorting, and increased cargo bike traffic would just make this area more chaotic and less safe for residents, especially all the young kids in our building. There just seems to be more suitable commercial or industrial areas nearby that are more appropriate for this kind of operation. Thank you for your time and
Thank
for
you,
considering our concerns.
Okay. Okay, next is Gina Marston.
Thank you. Turn off that.
Go ahead, we hear you.
There's an echo. Turn off the audio. Sorry. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, this is the first such meeting I've been to, and I waited through the whole thing because this very important topic to me is the concern I have about the micro hub location, not the idea of doing it. And I fully appreciate what was said. It sounds like a lot of well-meaning and good thought and study have gone into that, but to me, there's just no way it makes any kind of sense to do it here. This is a residential, 4 buildings around this corner
You're talking
intersection.
about 389, I assume?
89, sorry, yes. It's so congested and busy in a good way, but also, dangerous, and people have to watch out because of all the things that have been mentioned before. There are a lot of families in all of these buildings. We, in fact, moved to this building because it was a residential area. We had lived down in Midtown with all the office buildings, and it was not what we wanted. We wanted much more of a residential area where people have families and strollers and dogs, and it's more mellow. And so this would have been a deal breaker, actually. We would not have bought in this apartment if there was an industrial truck loading and unloading distribution hub right around, wrapped in front of our building. We would not even have moved here. And there were places where we looked at nice apartments elsewhere in the city where there was construction going on, and we deliberately selected that. And it feels very unfair and odd to me that, you know, that something that clearly doesn't belong in this kind of area that's already so congested. There's a bus lane there. There's the bike lane, and all that was mentioned about how fast the electric bikes go,
Gina,
et cetera.
I think we've gotten
We got
it. I think
And-
transportation has gotten it.
And I think to the point, you know, like, please, you know, this is great feedback, you know, like if it's no to a location, that's like useful for us. So, you know, please put it in writing so that we have it aggregated. That's helpful to us. And also give us suggestions. So when you're putting in writing your reasons for why this location or that location isn't a good fit, like if there are other locations, you're like, you know what, this street, this particular area could be a really good use for this. That's wonderful. And like I said, you know, that's what we're looking for here. So thank you.
Listen, we're getting very late, and we're gonna have to put a time limit on this, and so people shouldn't speak more than 2 minutes. I know people want to speak on this topic, but I think and particularly if we're going to talk about 389, which we've already heard from at least 3 people here, and I think this transportation's gotten the message. Dylan Yen, go ahead, Dylan.
Sorry, Chuck, would you like me to put a 2-minute timer up?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Hi. Sorry. I just want to push back on the fact that microhubs is a good idea because it's clearly needed and Amazon isn't going anywhere. But I want to push back on the idea of giving away more public street space. I think one of the proposals was like 985 square feet per instance. I want to push back on, giving them dedicated street space when it's a multi-billion-dollar company. Like if they want to rent like a place somewhere under the bridge or whatever it is, as a use for sorting their packages, I mean, sure, but that's probably a good idea. But giving them dedicated street space and giving away more of our public street space for the dedicated use of a private company is something that I, cannot support. And I want to, I'm just curious as to why, we can't just tell Amazon, hey, go rent a storefront, an empty storefront or something, and use that to sort your packages instead of giving them street space. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dylan. Next is Koa. If you could give us your full name, please, for the record.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kwa, Khoa. Last name Le. Yeah. Really quick, I know everyone talked about 389th Street already. We have 2 kids, 4 and 2 boys. They have scooters. We have a dog, and it's not great if there's a micro hub there for our family. It seems like everyone's been saying that. One point that people haven't brought up is that left turn on 89th Street, we almost got hit a couple of times already by bikes and cars when people were turning left there. So if you add like a micro hub there, I think there should be a police there figuring that out all day long, because that becomes way more dangerous than it is already. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Next is Amir Tosi.
Hi, I'm one of the board members at 389, and I echo what a lot of the residents are saying about this. I don't want to rehash all of them, but I think the residential aspect of the neighborhood is in conflict with this entire idea. You've got 2 residential buildings opposite each other over 89th Street. It is narrow. It's going to be congested. But I am saying this more, Catherine, you're welcome to write this down, but I'm saying this more for my fellow residents at 389, so that we'll fill out these forms, we will send them to you, and I'm going to propose two other alternatives, which I think are important for you because I support this idea. First Avenue between 90th and 91st, there is a former Dwayne Reed that has been vacant for some time. You will not get any pushback from anybody if you put the micro hub in front of that location. And on 91st Street between York and First Avenue is a largely commercial street anyway. It is already a delivery hub, and it's actually well situated close to the FDR for whatever that's worth. So if my fellow residents are listening and they will take the time to fill out that form and bury Catherine with it, we are suggesting First Avenue between 90th and 91st in front of the Dwayne Reed, the old Dwayne Reed, which I don't know why it hasn't been filled, but that's their problem and you won't get any pushback. Or on 91st between York and First Avenue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is what I was hoping to get. So thank you.
and I don't think this is necessary to say because I think you're getting it, but I do want to say this as a board member. If you guys do this, we're going to have to take legal action. We don't want to have to do that, but we will.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Okay. Gregory Spector, next. Go ahead, Greg.
Hi.
You're on.
Hi, I'm also a resident, but of a building in front of yours. It's at 360 East 89th Street. Also a very residential building. I'm also a board member. And in addition to everything that has been said so far, I would like to point out that as of today, a lot of times when there's an Uber waiting for someone to come out from 389 and from 360, the street is already blocked as is. It will become impossible to get through. Additionally, there is a garage in our building, and the entrance to the garage is right in that spot that is outlined in your proposal. So I echo everybody that has said that before me. As to alternative locations, I take no position there. Clearly, Amazon and such are the only beneficiary of this proposal. I don't see a compelling reason for that to be implemented in the city. I don't see why they could not be spread around their hubs. Mini hubs could be outside. It does not have to be delivered on the bikes. They could use minivans. I don't see any reason to increase their profit margins. As far as 89th Street proposal, it is an absolute no from everybody in our building and obviously building in front of ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next is Sabrina Shi.
And just before Sabrina goes, just to clarify that, part of the idea of looking at the public right of way as as part of this pilot, one, because it's already happening here, but also to think about like smaller companies beyond the Amazons that already can afford the off-street space. So like the idea here was, can we encourage this kind of activity for the smaller delivery businesses and operations?
Thank you. Okay. Sabrina.
All right, thanks everyone. I'm also one of the I live in 389 and I know a lot of my neighbors are here as well as the neighbors of the building across. So don't need to repeat all the points. But the only thing I'll add is that with the congestion that is added, sometimes I think I worry about like emergency vehicles like ambulances or police officers being able to turn, and then like additional turning from bikes for the kids that live in the building. I think there's like two suggestions that one of our building managers suggested. It would be like, and I can reach out to you directly, but 90th at the corner of York, there's like a self-storage facility there, so it's very industrial. As well as 91st by the corner of York. I'll yield my time. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. Okay, next is Aman Agrawal. Can we good, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi.
So I am a resident and owner at 389. Once again, I just want to echo everything that everyone has said in terms of safety, in terms of us needing our loading and unloading space. But I think the only new point that I want to bring up is I definitely think the criteria for picking the locations is definitely flawed if this is the location that's being chosen, right? Let's say there's like 30 floors, 4 units per floor. That's 120 units in this building, 120 families that this would be impacting. Like, are you telling me that there's no other better location than in front of a building with 120 families? That's like there are plenty of other locations where
Exactly. And that's why I'm here.
no, but I guess I'm shocked that this was even considered, right?
Well,
Like,
it's the macro scale, right? Like where when you are kind of whittling it down to the street level, like there are details that get
but
lost.
this is a crucial detail. Like,
Right.
be in front of a storefront rather than a building with 120 families. Like, to me, that's a very like high level uh, criteria that
Yeah.
should have been considered, right?
Well,
That's
and
why
it,
we're having this
yeah.
meeting. So
No,
they don't
exactly.
always.
Exactly.
So
That is why. And so I appreciate in this, I very much appreciate the feedback. But yeah,
sure.
it's
So
like I recognize that our like macro scale citing criteria is very broad brush. And that's why it's so important to get the community level feedback. And also like, we can't physically visit every site that the computer generates as a potential location that could be good. So to get suggestions so that we can then ground truth is also really valuable.
no, and I understand that, but like something like seeing that, the building that you're in front of, right, has 30 floors or whatever, is something that you can look up easily if you're suggesting this spot, right?
Mhm.
So I just don't even understand why this is a suggestion. Like yeah, I just think
Yeah.
it's so far off
And I
that
think we've gotten the gist.
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
Thank
hear
thank
you.
you.
you. Thank you.
Okay, next is Carla Kugia. Go ahead, Carla.
Thank
You're
you.
on. You can be heard. You're on.
Yes, thank you. I'm also 389. Two things. I do think that it would be a big advantage to have locations like what the micro hubs is trying to achieve. However, I do think that besides all the criteria, no matter where we're trying to put these hubs, whoever lives there is going to object. And then if it's a store, maybe they have, they're going to have some loading area that they would like to use instead. So to me, it makes more sense to identify an area, a parking lot. Now, if the city wants to pay for that, so be it. But as we said, Amazon should be forced to basically buy some space to create the micro hubs, and it's like a warehouse or a parking lot, and do it there. For smaller companies, they can lease from Amazon, or the city may set up something different. But it doesn't look to me like it's going to be curbside unless we go, in really industrial areas. They're probably too far from the city at that point. So I don't know. I don't see this idea. I don't think it can be easily be implemented as a curbside on the streets, on our streets.
Okay, thank you.
Heard that. Thanks.
Next is Isaac Kobsan. Can we unmute? Okay, you're on.
Hi guys, I'm also live in the 389 East 89th Street. It's two things I want to say. First of all, for me, I am legally blind, and to walk with all that activity over there, for me, it will be very, very difficult because I walk with a cane. It's not easy at all. That's number one. Number two, I would suggest the place where you can put it easily. If you look at the place on the 90th Street between York and East End Avenue, it's a park on one side. So there is no residential building on one side. So along the park, you can easily to install anything you want. You wouldn't have any problem. I think that's the best place to put your micro hub if you really want it. But I also support an idea to put it to let big companies to buy or rent the big place and just do it over there. But if you want to do it on the street, that curb street in our neighborhood probably will be the best to suit you.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, next is Yasmina Palumbo.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So yeah, I do not support this concept anywhere in the city. I do, however, see this from both sides. I happen to have a company where we have to deliver. So I personally understand how absolutely difficult it is to deliver, but what we do is we then take on the cost of having a driver and someone who drives along with him so that we don't get our tickets. I understand and I appreciate the DOT trying to address a problem that's already there, but then facilitating the problem rather than finding the problem, I don't appreciate. I'm wondering if there's been an effort to fine Amazon for taking over the sidewalk and the street rather than now giving them additional space. I do not understand why a company of that scale cannot have a warehouse and do what we do as a small company, which is load up your truck as you need to deliver. First in, first out, so that I guess is what I want to say on that point. Just one point about being muted earlier. I'm not really sure about the reaction to what I was saying. I certainly was not implying that every member on Community Board 8 is a lobbyist. I was trying to raise the issue citywide, and there have been efforts by lobbyists to get lobbyists on community boards. That's it. Nothing personal. Certainly not. I appreciate the incredible volunteer work of every member that is here. And enough said.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next, Isaac. No, we saw Isaac. Wait a second. Let's see who. Oh, wait. Sorry. Sergey Shatunov. That's right.
Hi, Sergey, East 89. Strong concern against the hub on 89th Street. Agree with my neighbors. It puts safety for our kids at risk. It's not up to negotiation. Organization of the discussion also below the bar. What was presented last year as location is different from what we hear today. Hub itself became mass very quickly as well, and you will tell us, oh, call 311 or something. It will become dirty, unsafe place for our kids and neighbors. It should be placed somewhere closer to other industrial businesses or buildings, not in the area that's full of kids. Lots of parents cannot attend this meeting because it's already 9. It's also another question about how we organize our discussion. Thank you a lot.
No, that's great. And
Thank you.
again,
Thank you.
It's clear, and this is, great feedback. I don't think anyone has to make the case. There's, we want to work with you. So if there's a strong desire from the community not to cite a micro hub at that location, don't worry. We're not going to push for it. We really want to cite, this resource if it makes sense in your neighborhood in a location that works for you. And to get at some of the and I think the deck kind of talks about our rationale and why we're trying to provide this curbside space for improved safety of an activity that's already happening. I mean, yes, I hear the call for fining, but part of that is like having space to go along the curb first for this activity, and right now that doesn't exist.
All right, thank you,
So,
Catherine.
yeah.
Okay, next, Cindy Harlib.
Hi.
Go ahead, Cindy, you're on.
Yes. Hi, thank you. This is the first community meeting I've ever been to. I've been on since 6:30. I had no idea I was going to go this long. So I just want to quickly say I am a resident and tenant at 360 East 89th. I agree with everything everyone has said in terms of objecting to this. We are two large buildings that face each other on a narrow street, ours with a garage. We're right off a bike lane. There are one thing people have not said is, in addition to all the kids in the buildings, there are so many schools around. Kids are walking the streets to and from school during out lunches. There are definitely other areas. I loved the other suggestions that were offered. There are more industrial streets, and it's just an absolutely terrible location. So just wanted to let you know. But the biggest thing is, how can I put this in writing? I know you keep saying that everybody should put it in writing, and I don't know how to make that happen.
There was a link in the chat.
There's a link in the chat. If you look there.
Oh, send your comments. Okay.
Right. Yes. Thank you.
Oh, so wait, sorry. So it's just somebody's email? So we're just
and earlier in the chat, there was actually a document linked, which includes a sort of write-up of like what microhubs are, the sort of criteria that we use to kind of get this macro scale like level of like possible sites, and then the suggested sites everyone's talking about, and then opportunities within that. There's like, you know, your feedback, your alternative suggestions. If, you know, if it's an absolute, like everyone's saying, like this is a terrible location,
right?
Put it right there.
We
We'll just
put it in that
put it in.
PDF.
We'll just put in the chat where you send them in.
Yeah. So you put it in the PDF.
To make it clear.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, Olga, if you could identify your full name for the record, please, and unmute yourself. There you go. You're on.
Hi, I'm sorry. I am actually in a car driving. So Olga Chabai-Shetty, I'm an owner at 360 East 89th Street. Also opposed this idea. Just one maybe new fact to add to the conversation. The space between 360 East 89 and the opposite building is a spot where school buses actually pick up kids in the morning and they drop them off in the afternoon. So having trucks there, right, potentially parked, double parked, is going to create a problem for those school buses to pick up and drop off. So that's, you know, potentially a new fact that hasn't been mentioned. I think the garage entrance, again, it's often being blocked by, you know, Ubers, Lyfts, taxis, and other vehicles. So again, adding additional trucks and other vehicles to that location is going to create even more issues. And again, this is a street, and I completely agree that an avenue would be a much better location. They're wider, there are plenty of spaces in that neighborhood. If this micro hub is even needed, we shouldn't place it on a street. You know, there's plenty of space on avenues where this kind of traffic could potentially be accommodated.
Thank you.
That is all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Olga. Next, Evelyn David.
Evelyn, you can unmute. I think she's away from her phone.
All right, she's not there. Let's go on. Next, Anoop, if you could identify your full name for the record, please. And you're unmuted now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Give us your full name for the record, please.
Yeah, hi, my name is Anoop Dalvi. I'm also a resident at 389. I'll basically just echo all the other objections that were made. It's just a really bad location for this program. It's a very residential street. There's, you know, families with young kids, there's pets. I think I'd be supportive of like some of the other locations that were mentioned on 90th or 91st on, you know, closer to York. But yeah, this particular location, terrible location for this type of program. So yeah, I'll keep it brief, and that's all I had.
Thank you. Next is Dai Wu. We can unmute Dai Wu.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, and thank you for organizing this. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, you're fine.
Okay, great. First, I just wanted to, you know, say that, you know, I think it's not lost on the community that, you know, this is not generating goodwill for Amazon. Clearly, I think if I understand correctly, they first proposed to put the location next to the Seatown, and crush the neighborhood convenience store. And now it seems that they're trying to detract from the neighborhood, residential neighborhood we really treasure. So I'm definitely opposed to that. And secondly, I was wondering if it's possible for the DOT to share the site selection criteria, because I think, as everyone has made clear, this is a very residential neighborhood. So this is really not suitable for the purpose discussed here. If anyone visit here, you will see that it's just not suitable. So maybe the criteria needs to be refined.
Let me explain something to you, which she explained before. There's, in the chat, there's what the general criteria. They just had computer things look at various neighborhoods. They didn't get down to the granular level. That's what we're doing here. And as Catherine, I think, pointed out before, that's why she wants to hear from people where they have specific problems with the site, as we've heard from all of you.
And to also add some clarity, like a neighborhood can have like mixed use zoning, but the character might be more residential. And that's something that a community member would know better than somebody who's a planner who's kind of has this more macro view. And that's why it's so important to have this kind of feedback. And I really value everyone who took the time tonight to share this information, and who takes the time to add it to the spreadsheet and get it back to us so that we have your feedback and your deeper understanding of your neighborhood.
Thank you. And the last point on my end, and I'm a owner at 360 East 89th, which is right across from 389 proposed location. Last point I just wanted to bring up, that's probably not talked about before. There is not only on the road traffic and congestion that this will generate, but also on the street, on the pavement congestion. On the pavement, it's actually quite narrow. So as is, you actually have a lot of times packages being dropped off on the street, blocking the passage of people. So this poses safety concerns, not only for young children, but also for the elderly as well. So I just wanted to make that clear as well.
Okay,
thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Brian Krantz, next.
Hi, this is Jessica and Brian Krantz. We are owners on 360 East 89th Street. Thanks for the opportunity and for allowing us to speak. Completely echo everyone's sentiments on this call. This is a terrible, terrible location for a micro hub. As many other people on the call mentioned, there are almost every unit in our building, 360 East 89th, has young children in it. There are children going onto school buses every single morning. There are children being dropped off by school buses every single morning. There are cars driving people with young children coming in and out. Having a hub like this in front of the building is dangerous. The kids are, not always paying attention. There, is potential for serious liability and accidents, which should be a major concern for whoever is considering building this, and obviously for the parents of these children. And then, similar to the last person who spoke, this block in particular is one of the most narrow blocks in the neighborhood. You can't even fit a stroller. One single stroller can't fit down some areas of 89th Street on the sidewalk. It's that narrow. And to have something even obstructing more of the sidewalk would be a terrible liability and a hazard to everyone that walks on the street. So please convey how vehemently opposed we are to this plan.
Yes, thank you. Let's see if we can get Evelyn David here back. I don't know if she's still around. Can we unmute Evelyn?
Yeah, Evelyn, you're good. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. I'm so sorry I missed that first one. I'm just going to pose this as an idea. In Europe, in almost every city, you cannot deliver after 7 in the morning. Now, I know that it would be a huge issue until if it became like a regulation and they gave everybody a ton of time to get it together, to figure out how they were going to I don't know how impractical. Lot of this stuff comes in during the day, the packages. So I don't know. I mean, it's so controversial. You can't have hubs in front of residential buildings. You can't block little streets. You know, it's a problem. So anyway, just food for thought for the DOT
Actually,
to know that.
Yeah,
go
no,
ahead.
I totally hear that. And we actually have an off-hour deliveries program that helps encourage more companies to do nighttime delivery, in part to reduce conflicts with folks during the day. So definitely heard, and we have looked at Europe for a lot of inspiration for some of the things that they're doing there.
Okay.
But thank
No,
you.
Paris, you can't deliver after 7 a.m. I know that. I mean, I know there's no they don't have trucks on the street. They got other problems, but they don't have the trucks. Anyway, but thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Just keep it in mind.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you. Okay, Leah, I guess Hanlon here, or is it still, she's just raised her hand, I guess.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. North of 79th Street, between East End and the FDR, there is a 2-block long, totally unused road that Google Maps says is part of the FDR Drive, but it's not attached to the drive. There are no building entrances. There are no businesses. It's just 2 blocks of empty asphalt. What is that a road you could use for a micro hub?
Put it in the suggestions and we can look into it.
I will, although I don't even know what address it is.
You know, I think what you just said will give us enough to explore. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Leah. I'm going to go to the board now. Others have spoken here. Valerie had her hand up for a long time here. Go ahead.
Thanks, Chuck. Catherine, thank you for being so amenable to the commentary. I have just a couple of questions for you. It doesn't sound like you've selected any locations. So can you just give us your timeline here? You're looking for how many locations in our district, and when are you going to make a decision about which ones you're going to select?
So the good thing is that you all can drive that. We have 20 sites total for the whole city within the 3-year time frame, right, for this pilot. So we can, you know, we hear that there's some interest and there's some issues with delivery traffic and double parking. So we'd like to address that, hopefully, like testing out one of these sites. But again, if in order to kind of get one in within our kind of install season, like within this sort of first year of the pilot, we probably need to like kind of move on that, like between now and early fall before it gets to winter. But I think, you know, within the span of the pilot, those 3 years, like we can certainly look at adding a site. So if there needs, you know, if folks want to kind of, so it's basically up to you.
Okay, so I commend everybody from 89th Street who's on our call tonight, who saw that this was going to be on our agenda. But there are also 6 other sites that we haven't heard from anybody about. So I just want to know, have you all tried to notify those sites to see if people are actually amenable, not amenable? I mean, I would like to tell you that telling the community board and coming here is going to put all those people on notice, but I don't want to kid anybody that that's the right way. In fact, I know that a lot of people heard about this meeting tonight because they subscribe to a particular publication that is on the internet on the Upper East Side, and so they knew about it. So I just want to make sure that people are getting notification. I just don't want you to think that because you don't hear from anybody on those other sites that they're saying, yeah, come to our street.
No, that's a good point. And I think if you all can kind of nudge folks, but also we can, if you think that we should do more kind of on-street
absolutely. I think you should tell people
that. But at high level, like it's like, because sometimes it's hard to coordinate that on-street engagement. So like if there's like kind of like, as people are saying, if there's some sites that seem more amenable than others, and like if folks who are connected to the transportation committee are aware of like, have a sense, like that can help guide us in terms of that next level.
And the other site I want to recommend, and I'm going to ask Craig to chime in here, is we have something called the Manhattan Transfer Station, which we have been told repeatedly is underutilized, and it has all this in and out for trucks to come in and out. So I might suggest that somebody talk to people over at MTS and maybe talk about having Amazon rent that and use that as let them pay the city of New York to use that as their micro hub, and it wouldn't interfere with any residential street on the Upper East Side, and try that first before we start putting things in front of buildings. Craig is smiling, so I don't know if he's agreeing or disagreeing.
I like your creativity. I think that it may be not operating anywhere close to capacity, but I think the Department of Sanitation will say otherwise as far as the utility of that, even though obviously our neighborhood has long opposed its existence.
Well,
But
I mean, it's just a site that you guys can take a look at. So it's sitting there. It's not in front of anybody else, and I'm done. Thank you very much for letting me talk.
And we
Thank
do,
you.
like, city-owned off-street sites are on the table for the pilot, but we do need to coordinate with Department of Citywide Administrative Services on potential leases for those sites. So it's
Well,
a
just
little
like
bit of a
you know,
complicated process, but we'll add it to the list.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, Michelle Birnbaum next. Michelle?
Hello, can you hear
Yes.
me? I think I
Yep.
went off the Zoom call.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, we hear you.
Okay, because I lost my picture. Okay, so let's just say this. I think, Catherine, that 89th Street made their case tonight. So if you are interested in hearing from the public, you have heard, and I would remove that from your from your scope. The other thing is, the whole saying plan ahead, where the word ahead comes off the paper. You've all seen that. This is such an important issue with so much input necessary that I'm very, very sorry that it came at the end of this agenda where we spent so much time on the other issues. And I think we should revisit this another time. Also, I would have liked to see a presentation because I have concerns about what this even means. In other words, we're talking about Amazon. Does that mean that Amazon gets an assigned street space and that Amazon can stay there all day, 7 days a week? What about Fresh Direct? What about some of the other places? Do they each get an assigned space? Is the space made available to everybody who wants to use it? I don't really understand how this thing would even work. I get the concept, but as always, the devil is in the details. So as far as I'm concerned, we don't have anywhere enough information on how this thing would actually work. In general, I'm opposed to things being given over to the private sector of public space. That's in general. If I could be understanding and made to see how this would work, I maybe could go along. But I would have liked to see a presentation tonight. And because of time, you were restricted in giving that. And that's very unfortunate. We should have had the time for it. So I certainly don't want to see any resolution tonight. I certainly would like to see more publicity about this to go out to people in the neighborhood. I'm always worried when you say it's a pilot study because I have yet to see a pilot study that didn't become permanent. The plazas on the avenues were meant to be pilot studies. They all became permanent. And when elected officials such as Liz Kruger asked for stats on them, she was not able to get it. So I'm not comfortable with proceeding without a lot more detail, even for making recommendations, without designating maybe a whole meeting, Chuck and Craig, to this, to get a full presentation, how this works, who's involved, how these spaces will be assigned, et cetera, et cetera. And I certainly wouldn't want to see us sign into a pilot program, quotations, until we have all that information. But for the purposes of tonight's meeting, where you have proposed a site for which people have showed up to make their thoughts known, please take it off the radar. For the other sites that you have proposed, the fact that you haven't heard from individuals, as Valerie says, don't take that to mean anything. And let's reschedule this I think, co-chairs, for another meeting, make it number one, and maybe give it the whole agenda. So thanks very much for listening.
Well, we'll give that some thought, but we've already expressed listen, let's be serious here.
I'm very
Amazon
serious.
has the streets. They have them, whether you like it or not. They're on the streets. They're on the streets because all of us order like crazy from Amazon and they deliver like crazy.
That's true.
And if we do nothing, they're going to be on the streets. And they have
You
arrangements
can make them do
with the
something.
Department of, excuse me,
You can make
excuse
them
me,
do something.
excuse me. They have arranged with the Department of Finance. When they get tickets, they pay them at a vast discount. So they are already getting a very big thing. This initiative makes sense because what they're trying to do is see if we can eliminate some of the double parking and problems that occurs by providing these spaces. So everybody's coming up with the reasons why they don't make any sense. There's a lot of reasons why they make a lot of sense. And you can do nothing and we'll have the chaos and the double parking that we get complaints about in this committee all the time. So that in my mind is not a path we want to go down. But anyhow, let me go to, I'm sorry, Craig, do you want to make
I agree with everything you said, but just Michelle, if September 2024, DOT presented this in depth, so you could go back to that video and review the presentation and find it on our website.
Right. Okay. Let me go to DJ Falks, and we're not going to have any further comments. Everyone's already from the public who's got their hands up has already spoken, and this is the end of this presentation here. It's almost 5 minutes to 10 o'clock.
Thanks, Chuck. I recognize we've been on for a
DJ.
while. We did have questions, and maybe for Catherine, we can be brief, but I did want to get them in. Is there a strategy for on-the-ground enforcement to make sure these hubs are only used by delivery vehicles and not just another space for like illegal parking or something?
Yeah, go ahead, Catherine. Unmute Kath. She's not unmuted here.
Oh, sorry. Okay, great. And yes, so we have been talking with NYPD especially as we bring sites online. And in addition to that, within the permit structure, the companies do have the ability to, at their own expense, like tow illegally parked vehicles if they so want, if they don't want to wait for NYPD to tow vehicles that are parked illegally in these spaces. And then we also have for the kind of transloading non-truck portion that's sort of designated by flexible delineators and paint. So it's sort of not really accessible for illegal parking. So again, this is something very new. We're actually kind of on the cutting edge in the United States for this sort of thing, and especially for trying to address the curbside challenge of this. So this is something we're learning a lot as we go.
Good. Thank you. I
That's
want to thank
actually a good
everyone
segue.
for a lot of discussions, and we'll be making hopefully some thoughts and suggestions. And in the chart, Will has posted where you can fill in sites, and we'll make sure not to fill in 389 East 89th Street.
Excellent.
Okay. Do we have any further thing from the Department of Transportation? Anything, Colleen, did you have anything to report, or does anybody have anything to report?
Hey, Chuck, I don't have anything to report, but thank you so much for accommodating us this evening.
Good. Okay. Is there any old business or new business? Someone else, I think, had a thing that they wanted to raise. I see it. Danielle Levisar
Yes.
has a hand up.
Hi.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, this is for the Department of Transportation to Colleen. So I'm a new board member, but before joining the community board, I worked with Julie Menon for a bill to install dog waste bag dispensers on public litter baskets. This is to try to help with the amount of dog poop that we have on the streets. So while Menon's office is still pushing for this bill, the Department of Transportation did express support for it, but doesn't want to necessarily have these bags on the trash cans, even though the Department of Sanitation is going to be the one responsible for changing them out. So I'm wondering what the specific concerns are for opposing these dispensers on the garbage cans, and if there's an alternative solution for us to work around this.
Hey, Danielle, I'm going to put my email in the chat. Why don't we touch base tomorrow and I'll get you all the details, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks. I think Ajna Shom had something to bring up too.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize for talking out of turn earlier. I was a little
That's
confused.
okay.
This is my first
That's all
time.
right. That's fine.
Thank you. So my name is Ashna. I'm a resident on East 96th Street, and I'm also a resident doctor at Jacobi Medical Center in the North Bronx. I rely heavily on the Bronx 10 Express bus, as do many of my colleagues. We learned recently that our stop on 96th was cut without any warning. And I'm really here looking for advice or suggestions on how I might go about fighting with that, because it is a very popular stop, and it, to me as a disabled person and as a doctor, it's really the safest and only way for me to get to my hospital reliably. So it's extremely important to me and others.
Where is the stop? Well, Colleen, maybe you want to comment on that?
I can't, Chuck, because that's an MTA, that's under the MTA jurisdiction. They're the ones who eliminated the stop, so they would know the reason why.
No, I know it's
I don't-
MTA, but I thought, DOT sort of has some say over,
No, we
stops
don't.
and
No, we don't. It's an MTA decision. We just install the signs.
okay. Yeah, well, we'll have to, where is this now? It's at 96 in which corner?
Yes, the northbound stop is on 96th and 3rd, in between 96th and 95th. And the southbound stop is on 95th and 2nd. They've eliminated both stops after adding them a year ago and having really good traffic from what I've seen at both ends.
Maybe we can talk to the MTA people about that. But White Bill is our district manager
Yeah.
on that to see about that, see why those were eliminated, and maybe we can see about adding them back.
Which route was that again? Which express route? Because I feel like I recall that we actually did discuss these stops, and MTA did present to us the proposed changes in the routings.
It's the north, it's between 95th and 96th, on 3rd going north, right? And then
It's the Bronx M10, so the Bronx
M10.
Manhattan 10 express bus. And they've eliminated both the northbound and southbound stops at 96.
Yeah, so we talked about this, I believe, in February 2024. I'm just pulling it up right now.
So February 2024, I believe, would be when they were added. They were added just about a year ago.
They were added and then they took them away.
They just took it away as of June 29th, according to the those official timetables from the MTA that I could find online.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, did they remove the signs already, or?
No, the signs are
just
still
on
there. The memo is dated from June 29th, so I think they haven't had the time.
Okay, yeah. If you're able to share that memo.
Yes.
Yeah, because typically if bus stops are being removed and not being replaced, we would normally be informed about that.
Okay. Is there an email address or something I should send it to?
Yeah, put it in the chat.
Okay, got it. I'll put the link in right now.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank
Any other details you have, send it to our info@cb8m.com email, and we can follow up with the MTA and New York City Transit.
Amazing.
And
Thank you so much.
yeah, and the MTA will also be at our September meeting as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Okay, let's see. I believe Andrew Fine has his hand up.
Thanks, Chuck. Just wanted to check in with Colleen regarding Lexington Avenue between 59th and 96 on the east side of the street, which has not seen street sweeping regulations since 2020, 2020, 2020 or 2021. And I'm just wondering, a couple of years ago, a pilot was instituted on the west side of the street to kind of bring back the alternate side of the street parking that was eliminated when you did the offset bus lane. And I think it was about a year to 15 months ago when I received the good news from the DOT that this would be extended to the east side of the street, but it never happened. And I bring it up every month or two, and I'm wondering if there's any update. Thank you.
Hi, Andrew. Yes, it's Colleen, and you do bring it up every month when we do have the meeting. And I should have a response for you within the next few weeks. We will provide a response to you and to the community board. So thanks for your patience. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate that. I'm just wondering why it was told to me approximately a year ago that it was approved and ready to go into effect.
We didn't say that it was approved and ready to go into effect. What we did was a pilot, and we have been monitoring it to see whether it's successful or not. And we do have findings, which I will share with the community board within the next few weeks.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Colleen.
You're welcome, Andrew.
And have a good night.
You too.
Thanks.
Seeing no other business, I think we're prepared to adjourn, and thank everyone for coming, and appreciate your participation. And our full board meeting is 2 weeks from today for anyone who's interested.